Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. One Piece. My aptitude can be infinitely strengthened and transformed. Chapter 21. Finn stood alone by the boat, staring at the turbulent sea in the distance, silently thinking about the direction of the future. The sudden strong wind swayed the boat, but Finn was as unmoved as Mount High. In this strong wind, an unusual figure gradually appeared. That was Luffy's father, Monkey D. Dragon. His deep eyes stared at this young man who was about the same age as his son, but he intuitively felt a hint of danger. Finn's eyes also turned to Dragon, feeling the deterrent power of the strong, and suddenly he had an understanding in his heart, knowing that this was Luffy's father, Monkey D. Dragon. Although Dragon's appearance was slightly different from that in the comics, that touch of resemblance was enough to convince Finn that this was the legendary figure in the legend. At this moment, a tense and expectant atmosphere filled the ship in Rogue Town. Then, Finn instantly changed into the God of War body second-style gun god, and then a cannon punch went straight to Dragon in the air. In mid-air, Dragon noticed Finn's movements and immediately became alert. In his observation, he realized that a shock wave was coming towards him. Faced with this sudden attack, he instinctively knew that if he was not careful, he might be hurt. Therefore, he did not dare to be careless, and quickly penetrated his entire arm with armament hockey, and used Dragon Claw Hand to resist the incoming cannon punch. Dragon felt a huge force, but he was not injured. However, he had a deeper understanding of Finn's strength. The ability to release armament hockey was obviously not simple. Finn saw Dragon easily block his cannon punch. Although he understood that this was just a casual test, it was almost impossible for ordinary people to easily resist it. However, he knew that the Comer was not hostile. So, he changed back to the form of Lushan, with flames and clouds entwined, and said lightly, "Not bad." Drager was not angry when he saw Finn's evaluation of him. Although the other party was indeed a junior in age, he was knowledgeable and experienced. It was obvious that Dragon, who had been on the sea for many years, was not the kind of person who liked to rank people by seniority and take advantage of his age. There is no doubt that the emotional intelligence of a person who could go against the world government was beyond doubt. He had a deep understanding of the rule that strength was respected on the sea. Drager saw that Finn did not make another move, so he knew that the test was over. Through intelligence, he had long known that there was a young strong man who had a good relationship with his son, but he had not investigated the specific information about Finn, which made him always a little worried. However, through the test just now, he knew that his worries were unnecessary. If such a strong man wanted to harm his son would have died 800 times. But now, he unconsciously had the idea of pulling this young strong man to join the revolutionaries. The young man is so powerful that it really makes us old guys ashamed. Does the young man seem to know me? Dorag said to Finn after landing on the boat. Dorag, you are famous. How many people on the sea don't know you? Finn replied lightly, without hiding that as the most vicious criminal in the world, his wanted order has long been all over the world. The world government has always been merciless in its crackdown on him. This man's goal is to shake the foundation of the world government, so how can the world government not pay special attention to him? Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that I am so famous now. It seems that the world government really feels threatened. Dorag said with a smile. What can I do for you? Finn asked directly. The famous East Sea Marshal Saint, I want to see him, is there any problem with that? Dorag joked, it's really well deserved. It really opened my eyes. Finn stared at Dorag and did not answer. He knew very well that these words were just polite words. Dorag noticed Finn's silence and felt a little embarrassed. He stopped talking and asked directly, Brother Finn, what do you think of our revolutionary army? I don't know, and I'm not interested in knowing. Finn replied indifferently. Finn knew that the complexity of world development was self-evident. The world government only maintained a detached position to ensure the overall direction of the world. It would not interfere too much in the internal affairs of the member states, and each country would still maintain autonomy. Although there are world nobles, such as the celestial dragons, who stand at the top of the world, the number is pitifully small, and most ordinary people will never have any intersection with them in their lives. This is somewhat similar to the federal system in the previous life. Various problems such as unbalanced regional development, the gap between the rich and the poor, and class contradictions also exist. It is very complicated to improve them. At least Finn doesn't know how to solve them. However, Finn obviously has no intention of paying attention to these topics at the moment. He just wants to pursue personal transformation and transcendence. Facing Finn's reply, Dragon understood that Finn was unwilling to discuss these topics in depth. He knew that it seemed unlikely for Finn to join the Revolutionary Army at the moment. The atmosphere on the scene was once again shrouded in an awkward silence. "Stinky boy, don't hurt Finn, get out of here." Garp's voice came from a distance, breaking the silence between Dragon and Finn. It turned out that Garp had gone directly from the Navy headquarters through the comm belt and arrived at Rogue Town early after Sengoku's order, ready to meet Luffy. However, he felt the presence of his son Dragon and clearly felt that Dragon was running towards Finn. Therefore, he directly cancelled his plan to meet Luffy and came directly to the scene. Finn was also surprised to see Garp's arrival, and Dragon smiled and looked at Garp and said, "Old man, long time no see." Garp curled his lips and said angrily, "You little fool, you disappeared for these years and hurt me so badly, and you are so at ease." It turned out that Dragon did not get along with Garp, so he directly rebelled, formed the Revolutionary Army and fought against the world government, becoming the #1 enemy of the world government. Garp has been standing in the middle for these years and has been under too much pressure. If he had not been a hero of the Navy and made great contributions to the Navy in his early years, his old comrades also believed in his position, and he would have taken the initiative to give up his rights and choose to retire in the Navy, which blocked the gossip in the Navy. If it were someone else, he would have been dealt with by the Navy long ago. It was also because of Dragon that Garp did not force Luffy to join the Navy too much, but acquiesced to his own choice. Because he knew that with a father who was a revolutionary leader, Luffy's situation would probably be worrying after joining the Navy. It might be better for him to be a pirate and live freely. At least for his sake, those strong men should not do anything excessive. This is also the reason why Garp has been letting Luffy go, worried that he would be too conspicuous and disadvantageous to Luffy. Drag also knew that he was wrong and made his father bear too much. He knew with his feet that Garp in the Navy must have endured too much doubt. However, he has his own ideals and his unfinished career. No matter how much he explains, it is useless, so he chooses to look at the sea and keep silent. Garp also knows the personality of his son, and knows that no matter how much he says, it is useless, so he will not say anything. Seeing this, Finn took the initiative to speak and ease the atmosphere, saying, "Grandpa Garp, why did you come to the East China Sea? Did you come to see Luffy? He should be on the island now." "Brother Finn, long time no see. You are now the famous East China Sea Marshal Saint," Garp said with a smile. "The big things you did in the East China Sea have alarmed the upper echelons of the Navy." After hearing this, Finn knew that it seemed that Luffy's strength in the East China Sea was already very conspicuous, and the upper echelons of the Navy were alarmed. The four seas are the basic base of the world government, and maintaining the stability of the four seas is the most important thing for the Navy. Because of Garp's relationship, it is estimated that Sengoku also chose to turn a blind eye to Garp's face. It seems that Garp came here to warn Luffy. But Finn will not take the blame for Luffy. He is not a pirate. He still needs to grow up. He smiled and said to Garp, "Old man, you may have misunderstood. I am not a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. I just took a ride on a ship to the Grand Line. This should be innocent." "Well, brother Finn, don't go the way of pirates, and don't be fooled by this stinky boy. This world is very complicated. Living a stable life is more important than anything else," Garp said to Finn earnestly. "Old man, it seems that you still remember. Yes, I just want to live well, and I won't joke with my life." Finn also responded with a smile. At this time, Dragon knew that he could no longer win over Finn, so he prepared to leave. "Grandpa!" A huge shout came from the shore. It was Luffy and his crew who had just finished their purchases. Seeing Garp, Luffy shouted loudly. Obviously, Luffy's current strength has not encountered too many setbacks. Although he had a confrontation with Navy Captain Smoker, unfortunately, under Luffy's two-color domineering, Smoker was no match at all and could only watch Luffy leave. This battle also inspired Smoker's fighting spirit and created the famous Smoker on the sea. After a while, Luffy and his crew returned to the ship. "Grandpa, why are you here? Are you here to see me off?" Luffy couldn't think of any other reason for Garp to appear, and asked happily. When Garp heard this, he was immediately furious. He had taken on such a great pressure, but the brat actually wanted him to see him off. So, he swung out a fist and hit Luffy's forehead hard. The sudden punch made Luffy fall on the splint in an instant, and a big bump appeared on his forehead. It hurts, Grandpa, what's wrong with you, why did you hit me? Luffy said puzzledly. It's refreshing, Garp responded with 2 words, and then shouted at Dragon, you little brat, you didn't even say hello to your son when you saw him. Luffy also reacted and said in surprise, you are my father, I haven't even met you yet. Okay, Luffy, this villain is called Dragon, don't associate with him in the future, it's very dangerous. Garp warned. Dragon. Obviously, the friends on the pirate ship were shocked. As the world's most wanted criminal, they must have heard of his name. After all, if there is a celebrity list in the world, Dragon and Garp are probably in the top 10, and their popularity is too high. Vice Admiral Garp, please don't scare these passionate young men. Finn said with a bad taste. Hero Garp. Everyone on the ship was frightened again. This family is so complicated that they couldn't help but take a breath. Garp also saw Dragon's embarrassment and said bluntly, for Luffy's safety, you can leave and contact him less in the future. Dragon felt relieved and felt deeply sorry for Luffy, but he had no choice but to say apologetically, Luffy, work hard to pursue your dreams. Sooner or later, we will meet again. After that, he turned into a gust of wind and disappeared without a trace. After seeing his grandson, facing this heartless guy, Garp knew that nothing he said would help. He knew that this kid would not listen to him at all, and he felt extremely tired. Forget it, let the world be destroyed, so he simply said to Luffy, Luffy, this is your own choice, life and death are in your own hands, go. After that, he flashed a few times and disappeared without a trace. Luffy's friends were also very surprised to see the meeting and separation of this family. Then let's embark on the Grand Line. Luffy shouted loudly. Yeah, seeing this scene, Finn was also amused and said with emotion, this family is really special and so interesting. The ship easily crossed the upside-down mountain and arrived at the Twin Capes. Finn witnessed the wonders of the 4 seas flowing backwards and the ships crossing the mountains for the first time, and couldn't help but sigh at the colorful world. At the Twin Capes, Finn made the decision to part ways with Luffy and others. He chose to stay and collect more information to give himself a more comprehensive understanding of the Grand Line. Finn's pursuit is very different from Luffy. After all, he wants more than just the excitement of adventure. It happened that the lighthouse keeper of the Twin Capes, Crocus, the ship doctor of Roger's pirate group, was undoubtedly an experienced elder, who just satisfied Finn's curiosity about the whole world. Finn believed that the reason why Crocus was invited by Roger was undoubtedly because he was one of the best doctors in the world. Through some of Finn's observations and the perception of the color of seeing, he also realized that Crocus had very strong strength, but it was also true. If he didn't have some strength, would he dare to board the pirate ship? There is no doubt that if Finn can think of someone who can help him and who knows the Grand Line best, then it must be this person, no one else. Not only because of his experience on Roger's ship, but also because he can get Roger's recognition with his excellent medical skills. Obviously, before joining Roger's pirate group, Crocus must have been famous. Medical skills cannot be innate, there must be inheritance, and it is necessary to learn from a master, cure diseases and save people, otherwise where would the fame come from? Finn guessed that judging from Crocus's outstanding strength, this person must have been on the sea when he was young and rescued many people, so his medical skills were recognized and praised. Therefore, Finn decided to stay and ask Crocus for information about the Grand Line and the New World. At the same time, he was deeply curious about a view in his previous life. Medicine and martial arts are inseparable. He wanted to know whether in this world, he could interpret the extraordinary power and physical fitness possessed by the domineering and the strong through medical science. If anyone could lend a helping hand, this old man would be the best choice. If all the reasons were as Finn guessed, perhaps he could more effectively complete the life transformation he had set in his mind. Of course, Finn knew that things were not that simple. Crocus had no reason to discuss these things with him. The old man usually just read the newspaper, fished, and looked leisurely, and seemed to have no interest in talking to Finn too much. Obviously, he thought Finn was just one of countless passers-by, and he had seen too much in his experience. Maybe in a few days, Finn would leave quietly like everyone else. Finn was also not in a hurry. Now he was very interested in the wonderland of Upside Down Mountain. In the previous analysis, he explored the formation of the Overlord color, and was 80% sure that this was a state of mind. Although he didn't know how to practice, as a lover of novels in his previous life, he knew a sentence: man follows the sky follows the Tao, and the Tao follows nature. That's right, he planned to follow the example of the masters, gaze at the wonders of heaven and earth, and observe whether he could resonate with the unity of heaven and man, in the hope of having some enlightenment. Therefore, after Luffy left, what Finn had been doing was standing at the end of the current under the upside-down mountain and observing carefully. He wanted to understand in depth what was strange about this place where the currents of the four seas converged, and at the same time pay attention to the strength of the current. Crocus was also curious about Finn's strange behavior. In other words, he has always been quite interested in Finn. Finn clearly showed experience far beyond his age. He was well informed in his adventure with Roger in the New World. He had seen too many high-end strong men. There was a clear difference between Finn and the pirates on the sea. The young man's mastery of physical skills was terrifying, similar to the growth path of the Navy. The Navy usually focuses on strengthening the physique, combined with appropriate devil fruits, so that the strength can be fully transformed. Generally speaking, admirals of the Navy are formed through such a path, and their combat effectiveness is much easier to form than pirates. However, Finn's growth path is completely different from that of the admiral, and Crocus thinks this may be a school he is not familiar with. After all, the world is so big that he is not omniscient and omnipotent. Nevertheless, such a style is extremely rare in this sea. Because the growth process of physical skills is very slow, it takes a long time of continuous training to achieve a qualitative breakthrough. In contrast, taking swordsmanship as an example, by mastering sword skills and obtaining a famous sword, one can make a qualitative leap in strength. The growth of physical skills requires long-term and continuous training to achieve substantial improvement. Therefore, in this a sea full of dangers, becoming a swordsman is obviously the first choice for pirates. The growth path of swordsmanship has a rich heritage on the sea, and it can quickly form a strong combat capability. Therefore, most of the great swordsmen who are famous in the sea are pirates. And the strong physical skills are more likely to appear in the Navy because they have perfect inheritance and training conditions. For such a young physical skills master, Crocus couldn't help but look up to him. Just the fact that Finn can walk easily on the sea and can control the armed color to form a flame cloud is enough to attract his attention. As for why Finn can easily judge that this is the armed color entanglement, not the animal awakening, there is no need to explain. For a doctor with excellent observation color and wide knowledge, it can be judged at a glance. However, at this moment, Crocus did not understand what Finn was going to do. Suddenly, Finn decided to go against the current. At first, he seemed very unstable standing on this fast-flowing sea current, because the flow was too fast, causing his own chi to quickly lose, and he could not effectively entangle with the armament hockey to form a support point. He could only run quickly and try his best to maintain balance before the support point disappeared. However, through continuous attempts, Finn learned to accelerate the generation of chi. When a thin cloud seemed to appear under his feet, instead of a thin layer close to the sea surface, Finn was finally able to walk steadily on this fast-flowing sea current. Although Finn acted lightly, in fact, this is a very physically demanding skill, and the consumption of armament hockey and physical energy is nearly 10 times that of the normal state, which is really exaggerated. At this time, Crocus, who was lying in a chair basking in the sun, could not help but be surprised and almost dropped his jaw. For Crocus, he could obviously guess how Finn was in this state. However, understanding does not mean that he can practice it personally. He knew that to push the control of the body to this extent, it is estimated that no one in the entire sea would exceed one hand, and perhaps this is too much. Combined with Roger's prophecy, he began to wonder if this man was the one who would stir up the world in the prophecy. This made him look solemn. Just like that, Finn climbed steadily to the top of the mountain. Overlooking the scenery of the four seas returning to the sea, he couldn't help but wonder, is this a naturally formed landscape? Looking back at this moment, it is precisely because of this unique geographical environment that ordinary people can live in peace in the four seas, and that those who are unwilling to be ordinary can show their ambitions and realize their dreams in the great waterways and the New World. Perhaps this is the fundamental reason why the four seas can remain peaceful. Finn looked at the New World on the right side of the upside-down mountain. In front of him was a vast ocean, so vast that he couldn't even see a place to land. Obviously, the New World that occupies 1/10 of the entire world is quite huge. You know, in the previous life, the entire country and the surrounding seas only occupied 6 points of the entire world, which shows how huge the New World is, equivalent to the size of a continent in the previous life. Finn plans to start from here to explore the sea area of the New World a little. Obviously, even though he hadn't walked far on the sea, he could still vaguely see the silhouette of the upside-down mountain. But the seabed seemed unusually turbulent at this time. According to his perception of the color of sight, some super-huge creatures were attacking him quickly and fiercely. I saw a snake tail rushing towards Finn like a mountain. Just a section of it exposed above the sea was enough to make Finn feel as if he was facing a huge mountain. The snake tail was as thick as several football fields, and it rushed towards Finn with sea currents and hurricanes. And vaguely, Finn heard a voice, "Someone broke in here so soon." Facing the random attack of this huge beast, Finn was extremely cautious. It was almost impossible to dodge at this moment, because the speed was too fast and the coverage area was too wide, and the attack with tsunamis and hurricanes would come in an instant. Finn quickly used the ability of life return to expand his whole body. This is the ultimate state of Shenwushan Liushan. By releasing the accumulated energy, the whole body expands, the blood flow speeds up, the combat power of the whole body is rapidly improved, and the entire body surface is covered with armed color. With a loud bang, the giant tail collided with Finn. It is difficult to describe how strong this force is, but in an instant Finn was hit against the upside-down mountain wall and fell into it. At this time, Finn was in a mess, suffered a violent impact, bleeding from all 7 orifices, and gasping violently. However, Finn did not stay for long. He knew that the danger was not over yet. He moved directly at full speed and rushed to the top of the mountain quickly along the mountain wall. Finn used the observation color at full power to perceive the surroundings until he stepped on the top of the mountain and quickly ran towards the twin cape along the downward current. He finally let go. Just now, he was really in danger of death. This was the first time he had encountered such a dangerous situation since he came to this world. This also gave Finn a warning that this world was too mysterious and he needed to become stronger. At this time, Crocus also saw Finn's miserable condition and was a little surprised. In just a short while, Finn was injured so badly. At this time, Finn's body was like a little giant, and high-temperature steam was coming out of his body from time to time. The previous flame cloud had been lifted. It was obvious that Finn had used all his strength to strengthen his combat form. Crocus was just approaching, and he couldn't bear the high temperature of the steam. He looked at Finn with more respect, but it was obviously not the time to focus on this. Finn's injury was the key point. When Finn saw that the giant beast did not catch up, his heart was finally relieved. He lifted the Shenwu body Lushan, returned to the ordinary human form, and devoted himself to self-recovery. Fortunately, Finn's injury is not serious, and with his strong physique, he believes that he will be able to fully recover in no time. This sudden injury made his relaxed heart tense again. However, Finn knew that the most important thing now was to recover as soon as possible. Although the injury was not too serious, he knew that he needed a period of rest. Finn chose to recuperate at the Twin Capes, and often chatted with old Crocus, taking this opportunity to learn about the New World and the Great Route. Gradually, the relationship between Finn and Crocus became better and better, and the communication became more and more frequent. Finn revealed the cause of his injury to the old doctor and asked if he had ever seen the giant monster. Crocus said that he had not seen it with his own eyes, and Finn also knew from his surprised expression that he was not lying. During the conversation, Finn learned that this kind of giant beast is also very rare in the New World. Crocus mentioned that he had only seen the giant elephant on Zo Island, which really shocked him at the time. Crocus heard that such a monster appeared near the Red Earth continent, and did not chase it but guarded it like a guard, as if he thought of something. Obviously, he thought of the information Roger had said about Raftel, including the fact that the giant beast was guarding the huge kingdom. During their conversation, Finn also recalled the discussion about the location of Raftel in his previous life. Some people said that it was not far from the Red Earth continent, and the starting point and the end point of the adventure were separated by a wall. At this time, Finn also believed that the protection of the giant beast might be to prevent people from taking shortcuts. Only the brave who truly conquered the Grand Line were worthy of arriving. On the stone bench near the lighthouse, Finn and Crocus had been fishing leisurely and chatting since Finn was injured. Finn took the initiative to ask, "Old man, what do you know about the Grand Line? Can you share it with me?" Old Crocus smiled. Over the past few days, he has become more and more appreciative of Finn. He shook the fishing rod in his hand and said, "The Grand Line is a place that is both loved and hated. This sea area is very dangerous and full of endless unknowns and challenges. Currently, this sea area has been constantly explored, and the sea charts of various areas are confidential and strictly kept secret by major forces. The island kingdom on the surface is just the tip of the iceberg, and many islands like small gardens have not yet been discovered." Here, he paused, turned his eyes to Finn, and continued, "If you want to take risks, you must have a strong team. You need a navigator who understands the currents, climate, sea kings, and the distribution of dangerous seas. This is the most basic of the basics. The most important thing is that this sea carries the dreams of countless pirates who yearn for adventure. To conquer this sea, you need a strong partner. After all, a person's ability is limited. Even a strong captain like Roger relies on a strong team to sail." "Should I form a team?" Finn muttered to himself, thinking about whether he also needed to build a team and how to form one. But this is not a pirate game, and he does not have the aura of the protagonist, nor the ability to raise his arm and call countless strong men to respond. Seeing Finn fall into deep thought, Crocus's smile deepened, knowing that his words had inspired him. Then, old Crocus quietly stared at the sea in the distance, as if recalling the past. After a while, he continued to share his experience. "There are many wonders in this sea area. Just like the upside-down mountain in front of you, the four seas are reversed, and there are also sea currents surging from the ground to the sky, the sudden fault of the sea, the magical space interlayer, the four seasons of the day, and other strange scenes which are simply incredible." As Crocus narrated, Finn's curiosity about the Grand Line deepened. He decided to use this time to ask Crocus for more knowledge about the Grand Line so that he could better adapt to this challenging sea area in advance. At the same time, Finn noticed that many merchant ships from the East China Sea and the South China Sea crossed the upside-down mountain. This confused him. Is it worth it for merchant ships to travel in this dangerous sea area? After all, the risk of ship damage and loss of life always exists, and Finn doubts whether the profit can offset such a risk. However, he gradually realized that he had underestimated the richness of the resources in this place where the four seas meet. Through conversations with Crocus, Finn learned that the profit of these merchant ships on a trip could be dozens of times that of other seas, and the precious resources of the Great Channel attracted people from all over the world. And these merchant ships generally belong to large chambers of commerce, with complete ship configurations, perennial exchanges, and rich experience. It is not difficult for them to cross the upside-down mountain. Therefore, they are unwilling to pay high passage fees and choose to bypass the doldrums routes to the four seas guarded by pirate forces. The merchant ships believe that they have enough strength to cross the upside-down mountain and directly reach the Great Channel. This approach not only reduces the economic burden, and avoid unexpected attacks by sea kings. Although these routes are regarded as a way to make money by pirate forces, and sea kings are cleaned up regularly, there will inevitably be omissions. Once you are unlucky, you may be buried in the belly of the fish. Finn was quite curious about this and had some doubts. The Grand Line itself is an extremely dangerous area, full of a large number of pirate forces. Are these caravans not worried about encountering danger at all? Or, what kind of support do they have? The more Finn thought about it, the more confused he became. So Finn decided to ask some passing caravans about this doubt. In the process of talking with the caravan, Finn's worldview was greatly impacted. It turned out that his cognition was too narrow. He always thought that pirates robbed merchant ships on the Grand Line and occupied uncontrolled islands as bases. He believed that pirates relied on the dangers of the Grand Line and the secrecy of the territory to avoid the navy, which constituted a paradise for pirates. However, after some understanding, Finn realized that the actual situation was far from the case. There are indeed some vicious pirate groups that rob merchant ships, but these are often small pirate groups that have just entered the Grand Line. With a limited scale, they can only be regarded as small scale, and then rush to the New World, dreaming of standing at the top of the pirate world there. These small pirate groups will not only be wanted and hunted by the Navy, but may also be hostile to local large pirate groups. It turns out that not all pirate groups are aiming to pursue the One Piece. Some realized their strength during the adventure, and some were afraid of taking risks and fighting at sea, especially in the New World, where the mortality rate is too high. Some are attracted by the pirates' unearned and life of drinking, so they choose to stay in various areas of the Grand Line. Only those pirate groups with dreams, full of blood, or who think they are strong will always pursue the One Piece as their goal. And those pirate groups that choose to stay in the Grand Line, if they continue to rob without restraint, will inevitably lead to more severe pursuit by the Navy. This is related to the dignity of the Navy, and the superficial stability must be maintained. For those relatively peaceful pirate groups, as long as they do not take the initiative to provoke the Navy will usually turn a blind eye. After all, the Grand Line itself is extremely dangerous. The Navy cannot cover all areas at the same time, and it is unable to clear all pirate groups from the four seas. Therefore, many pirate groups choose to divide the territory secretly, control the local maritime trade, and cooperate with large chambers of commerce, local gangs and other forces to provide shelter and collect shares, in order to survive in a relatively mild way. This way of peaceful coexistence between all forces is good for everyone. The pirate group will not take risks and destroy the relative tranquility of this sea area. The Navy maintains peace at sea and avoids disorderly pirate activities. At the same time, maritime trade can also proceed smoothly without being threatened by pirates. It seems to be a perfect situation, and it has almost become a tacit rule in this sea area. After all, pirates also need to live a normal life and enjoy the wealth they earn. Do you want the pirates to stay on the ship all the time? Obviously, it is not very realistic. Many pirates have bases on various islands, which looks a bit like starting a company, except that they rely on force to conduct a capitalist business, living a life of debauchery and drunkenness. However, in this kind of life, it is easy to lose one's will. New pirate groups rise, and old ones will be destroyed and disbanded in battles. This is common in this sea area. It is also a bit dramatic. What can be seized by force can also be lost by force. Therefore, under the pressure of the Navy, the Grand Line presents a strange peace, because even the battles between pirate groups will avoid civilians. The concept of the strong being respected is also vividly interpreted. The strong should enjoy the support, occupy the territory, and enjoy all this as they should. This concept has long been widely accepted on the Grand Line and staged in many island countries, and the Navy has no ability to subvert it. Therefore, some major countries also cultivate their own pirate groups, such as the Eight Treasures Navy of the Flower Country. After learning this information, Finn tried to keep himself calm, which really overturned his original cognition. He couldn't help thinking that it seemed that none of those who could successfully serve as captains and become the bosses of pirate groups were really stupid. They knew the difference between having a full meal and having a full meal every time. They also knew that one-time deals such as fishing in a dry pond and hunting in a burning forest were very easy to dig their own graves, because the behavior was too radical, the Navy would never tolerate it, and the final outcome would definitely be continuous pursuit. So, even if you have wealth, what can you do? Isn't it heaven? Living in fear and hiding from place to place, how can you continue to do business without any cost and still have fun and eat, drink and have fun comfortably? The reason why the Navy can acquiesce to this relatively mild approach is, on the one hand, because it is very difficult to hunt down the pirate group. If the pirates are forced into a corner, they may jump over the wall and die, resulting in huge losses. On the other hand, this way of pirates fighting for territory helps to keep the pirates from consuming each other and reduce the pressure on the New World. In this way, the Navy can also maintain the stability of the sea relatively easily without investing too much manpower and material resources. This seemingly contradictory cooperative coexistence has become a special phenomenon in this sea area. After half a month of recuperation at Gemini Cape, Finn's injuries were almost completely healed. This reminded him of the scene in the comics, where Luffy could recover quickly as long as he was full. Now it seems that this description is purely exaggerated. Perhaps Oda just exaggerated the effect to make the plot more fascinating. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible for people to recover so quickly. During this period, Finn also asked Crocus some questions about Roger's pirate group, but to his disappointment, the old doctor did not choose to answer these questions. In addition, Finn also asked about the Conqueror's hockey, and the result was also disappointing. Crocus knew very little about it. It seems that in this era, the understanding of Conqueror's hockey is still at the primary stage, and many people still superstitiously believe that this is the qualification of the king. As for the observation hockey and armament hockey, they have not been explained from the perspective of human medicine. At least in Crocus's opinion, it is impossible to explain. Finn also has some understanding of the discussion of medicine. He learned that the doctors in this world are mainly similar to Chinese medicine. Through summarization from generation to generation, the prescriptions for treating the symptoms are optimized. Those more powerful doctors can really treat the symptoms through pharmacological matching. The inheritance of medicine is mostly family or master-apprentice system, and this kind of eating skill is usually not easily passed on. As for why medical research is still so backward even though life research has reached the level of bloodline factors, the reason is that the equipment is expensive and there are many undeveloped islands in this world. There are countless precious medicinal materials that are thousands of years old. They are not as valuable as imagined. The real effect is good, quick, and cheap. This is also one of the reasons why the Great Waterway can attract merchants from all over the world. There are many medicinal herbs in the previous year, and the profits are very lucrative. In addition, the Great Waterway has unique plants, animals, minerals and other scarce resources in the world. The attraction is too great, which makes these merchants flock to it. During the days of recovery, Finn learned more about the Grand Line through communication with Crocus. Now that his injuries have almost recovered, it is time to consider leaving. However, he did not know where to go next for a while. Just as Finn was thinking about his future, a merchant ship from the East China Sea encountered an emergency when crossing the upside-down mountain and an accident occurred. The merchant ship lost control in the turbulent current. At the critical moment when it was about to hit the stone walls on both sides of the channel, Finn acted quickly, stabilized the merchant ship with a few steps, and blocked its momentum to move forward. This scene stunned the crew members who were wandering under the shadow of death. Under the timely command of the navigator, the helmsman of the merchant ship adjusted the direction according to the order, and successfully restored stability with the help of Finn. Finn also landed on the ship cleverly. The crew members who were in danger gradually put their hearts back to their original positions at this time, but some of them still had lingering fears. Fortunately, Captain Drake, an experienced old seaman, had already recovered from the shock and expressed his gratitude to Finn. A clever crew member on the ship usually likes to pay attention to the news on the sea. He immediately recognized Finn, ran over quickly, looked at Finn with admiration, and hurriedly said to the captain, "Captain Drake, this is the idol I often talk about, Lord Finn, the martial saint." Then he turned to Finn excitedly and worshipped, "Lord Finn, thank you for saving us. I really thought I was going to die just now. It was too dangerous." Finn looked at this sudden little fan, just smiled faintly and nodded, without saying anything. I don't know since when, his pursuit of transcendence in life has become persistent, and he has become more and more indifferent to everything around him, as if he doesn't care. However, this cold attitude did not make the people on the ship feel uncomfortable. They have long been accustomed to it. Obviously, this is the current situation in this world. The strong do not need to cater to the weak. Soon, the merchant ships docked at the sea near the Twin Cape Lighthouse. Captain Drake asked the caravan to rest on the spot and wait for the next order. He reported his sailing situation to the headquarters and then began to wait. Finn was curious about the ocean trade in the pirate world, so he asked Drake about the relevant matters. It turned out that this fleet was a delivery fleet under a large chamber of commerce in the East China Sea, which was responsible for traveling to and from the Grand Line to carry out trading tasks. Through Drake's introduction, Finn learned that due to the changeable climate of the Grand Line, some weak crops such as rice, wheat and tobacco were extremely unfriendly and the yield was scarce. On the contrary, the climate conditions of the four seas are just suitable for the growth of these crops. But the Grand Line also has its unique products, and this difference has created a unique complementary trade relationship between the Grand Line and the Four Seas. The agricultural products of the Four Seas that their caravan is responsible for transporting can be sold on the Grand Line for more than 10 times the profit of the Four Seas. They can also bring back the unique resources of the Grand Line, which are also very popular in the Four Seas and have lucrative profits. After a trip, the caravan can earn hundreds of millions of Baileys in profit, which is incredible, so this has formed a prosperous trade between the Four Seas and the Grand Line, although the Grand Line is indeed full of dangers. Finn knows nothing about business, and he was just a wage earner in his previous life. But this does not prevent him from lamenting that the trade of mutual exchange is too profitable. Since his injuries have almost recovered, he decided to go with the caravan to see it. For this request, Drake agreed without hesitation and arranged VIP treatment for Finn. Finn gladly accepted these. Unconsciously, Finn seemed to have adapted to this respect for himself. Drake is not a fool, but a shrewd man, otherwise he would not have become the manager of this caravan. Although he knows nothing about Finn's exact strength, he was amazed by the power of Finn to manipulate dozens of tons of ships in the upside-down mountain. The ability to walk on the sea was completely beyond his cognition. He knew that this was a super thigh. As long as he served well, he might be his life-saving straw at any time. Obviously, he understood that the opportunity to make friends with such a strong man was quite rare. While Drake was communicating with Finn, a large ship slowly approached. Seeing Drake's reaction, he knew that this was the person he was waiting for. Because the Great Channel was too dangerous, if there was no one familiar with the sea to guide the caravan, it would be easy for it to get into trouble. Climate, ocean currents and pirates could all be the reasons for the destruction of the fleet. Therefore, trade needs to be led by local merchants, and the people who came to meet them were sent by the target Chamber of Commerce this time. Could it be that? Does it mean that local merchants will not be robbed by pirates? Basically, it can only be said that there is a tacit understanding between the major pirate groups that have a dominant position in various seas, and they do not infringe on each other's merchant ships under the protection of each other in order to safeguard each other's economic interests. If there is an attack on each other's merchant ships under the protection of the other party, it will be regarded as a war, leading to escalation of conflicts. Especially when surviving on the sea, face and name are regarded as life. Being attacked without fighting back will be considered weak and will attract countless covetousness. Therefore, pirate groups with similar strength usually maintain relative restraint. The person who came was a middle-aged mustache, who brought a lot of guards and seemed to have a high status in the Chamber of Commerce. He looked very familiar with Drake, and greeted each other skillfully after getting on the ship. "Alex, long time no see, I didn't expect you to come here in person this time, it's really an honor." Drake greeted politely. "Derek, we are all old friends, so there is no need for polite words. I just happened to be free this time, so I came out to take a look," Alex said with a smile. Then, Derek pulled Alex into the ship, and before leaving, he politely greeted Finn and apologized, saying that he had something to deal with. Finn also nodded slightly to indicate that he was casual. In the cabin, Derek quietly explained Finn's identity to Alex and told him about the scene where Finn saved them. Obviously, Alex had seen more of the world than Derek and was well aware of the meaning behind it. In this sea area, he knew that even the vice-admirals of the nearby naval base would find it difficult to do this, not to mention the Mad Wolf pirates who controlled their country's marine trade. He took a breath and recalled the figure he had just seen in his mind. That was a super strong man. Seeing this, Derek knew that his purpose of using the tiger's skin as a banner to bully others had been achieved, so he continued to introduce Finn's situation to Alex in detail. Alex casually checked the ship, confirmed the traded materials, and immediately notified everyone to prepare to set sail. He acted decisively and quickly took out the prepared navigation compass and handed it to Drake, and at the same time he had the idea of getting to know Finn. The fleet sailed for a total of 3 days, during which they encountered several waves of cruising naval warships and conducted a simple inspection. They also encountered fleets of other pirate forces, but when Alex showed the token of the Mad Wolf pirates, those fleets chose to leave directly. Obviously, in the waters around Yunwu Island, the Mad Wolf pirates have some power. Finn stood at the bow all day long, and he liked the cool feeling of the wind blowing. With the full recovery of his injuries, the Shenwu Shen Lushan was used to practice domineering again, and it also added a mysterious taste to him. During the period, Alex talked to Finn about the situation in his country. This country is called the Kingdom of Clouds and Mist, because 70% of the country's land is covered by high mountain clouds and mist. Due to the thick fog all year round, it will only fade away for a very short time. This makes the country's environment very suitable for growing various precious medicinal materials. At the same time, the mountains covered by thick fog all year round have a large number of ferocious beasts, which makes it extremely difficult for humans to explore them, so most areas maintain their original environment. However, with the advent of the Great Pirate Era in recent years and the prosperity of marine trade, the progress of exploration has gradually accelerated, and various precious, high-quality and high-year medicinal materials have often been found. When he heard that this country was actually rich in medicinal materials, and medicinal materials that were thousands or thousands of years old were not very rare, Finn couldn't help but look forward to it. In his previous life, he had read too many novels, in which the descriptions of medicines included 100-year-old precious medicines, 1,000-year-old spiritual medicines, and 10,000-year-old magical medicines. Finn wanted to know whether medicines in this world could help increase strength. Finn decided to learn more about the information related to medicinal materials in this country and try it himself. If the old medicinal materials really represent the transformation of the efficacy, then it is very likely that the mutual promotion and mutual restraint of medicinal materials will play a key role in the transformation of the human body, and this will also be an epoch-making contribution. Finn couldn't help but look forward to it. In fact, Finn suspected that the evolutionary path of this world might have been led astray. He believed that this world should have originally followed the cultivation system of human evolution and transformation. Why did Finn make such a guess? Because there have always been some extraordinary items in this world, such as devil fruits, and there are power systems that transcend physical dimensions, such as domineering. Now, the research on the evolution of life through cultivation seems to have stagnated. On the contrary, the research on life by scientific means has been continuously advancing. As for the cause of this phenomenon, Finn speculated that it might be due to the influence of the visitors from the moon. Lunarly, the ancestors of the Ya and Shandia people brought ancient technology and changed the original evolutionary trajectory. Ancient technology demonstrated the power of external forces, just as 800 years later, the world still feared the power of Hades. In contrast, ordinary people may not make any achievements despite years of practice, and still find it difficult to resist the threat of bullets. Of course, it may also be the result of the survival of the fittest. Do I really have to reopen the world's true transformation practice path? Finn couldn't help thinking, and he didn't even notice that he laughed involuntarily. The Cloud Kingdom on Cloud Island has mountains occupying 70% of its land area, and is close to the doldrums, which makes it foggy all year round, with only a few times a year when the wind blows and the clouds disperse. Therefore, fog has become the eternal theme of this country, and the wealth shrouded in fog makes people want to explore. The country has a small population, but it is rich in medicinal materials and is a member of the world government. The current king, Calvin III, has excellent governance capabilities, actively promotes the development of the national medicinal materials industry, and encourages the country to vigorously develop marine trade. However, due to the fact that large areas of the country are foggy and unsuitable for living, the country's overall national strength is relatively weak, but as it is a major exporter of medicinal materials, the world government pays close attention to it, so the Navy's patrol intensity is greater than that of ordinary sea areas. Finn decided to stay here for a while, to gain a deeper understanding of the relevant knowledge of medicinal materials, and to try to see if it can assist his practice. However, when he thought that he was alone now, he couldn't help feeling a little shabby. How can he successfully verify his ideas? It is obviously not a wise move to seize by trickery. Finn came up with a plan and decided to make a name for himself and let those who are willing to take the bait take the bait. Finn had accumulated some experience in his previous life and understood the truth that traffic is money. As long as there is enough attention, wealth will naturally follow. Therefore, he decided to personally see the so-called Mad Wolf pirates and the ability user with the ability of the giant wolf fruit, Mad Wolf, and show his strength through the pirates. Finn had accumulated some experience in his previous life and understood the truth that traffic is money. In his previous life, as long as there is enough attention, wealth will naturally follow. In this world, strong individual power can easily attract a lot of attention. Therefore, he decided to personally see the so-called Mad Wolf pirates and the ability user with the ability of the giant wolf fruit, Mad Wolf, and show his strength. Finn learned from Alex that the Mad Wolf pirates were stationed on an island 50 nautical miles to the east. This island is known as a trading paradise for all kinds of contraband goods, attracting all kinds of people, including criminals, gang members and pirates. The island is also well equipped because of these debauched people. Bars, bathhouses, KTVs, clubs, restaurants, etc. can be seen everywhere, presenting a prosperous scene of raging fire and oil. Finn refused Alex's plan to send a boat to take him there. Just as Alex envied him, he stood on the sea in an instant and walked away quickly at a speed of 10 feet per step. Not long after, Finn saw the island Alex mentioned. At the same time, the lookout on the island also found Finn's figure. Seeing Finn coming from the sea, he was surprised and felt something was wrong. He immediately reported to the cadres. The cadres did the same and quickly reported to the Mad Wolf. After a while, Finn finally found the island Alex pointed out. At the same time, the lookout on the island also noticed Finn's figure. When they saw that Finn could actually walk on the sea, they were shocked and felt uneasy. They quickly reported the scene to the cadre on the island, and the cadre did the same, quickly passing the information to Crazy Wolf. Boss, we found someone on the sea walking towards our base. Yes, he walked over and walked directly on the sea. Now he is almost at the port. What do you plan to do? The cadre reported to Crazy Wolf in a hurry. Walking over the sea. Are you sure? Crazy Wolf asked again in confusion. Yes, boss, we did see him walking over. The cadre replied. After thinking for a while, Crazy Wolf concluded that the other party was probably also a person with the ability of a devil fruit, and decided to take his men to meet him. Whether the person came for a challenge or for other reasons, he decided to go in person. For the ability user, it is also very important to understand the other party's situation. Whether it is an enemy or a friend, it is necessary to treat it with caution. Obviously, devil fruits are extremely rare in the sea. They have the ability to change fate and can instantly make a person's combat power reach an incredible level. Ordinary people can gain extraordinary abilities by eating them. It is conceivable how incredible this miracle is. The abilities of some fruits are so powerful that they are like natural disasters. Therefore, you must not be careless when facing every devil fruit user. This is a profound lesson of blood and fire experienced on the sea. Mad Wolf brought a group of brothers and quickly came to the port. Just in time, he saw Finn walking over from the sea step by step. Finn in front of him was 4 meters tall, with a strong body and bare upper body, wearing a dark red belt. I don't know what material it is, but it can float in the air. The man is aloof and looks arrogant. Mad Wolf immediately judged that this is a strong man. In fact, Mad Wolf originally came from a wealthy family in the North Sea. His father was the chief guard of a large local chamber of commerce, and his strength was quite prestigious in the surrounding area. The family's martial arts have been passed down for generations, and in Mad Wolf's generation, the outstanding qualifications are even more prominent. Before he was 20 years old, he easily defeated his father. However, it was precisely because of this that Mad Wolf had greater ambitions, and it happened that Roger opened the Great Pirate Era. The young and passionate him embarked on the journey of the Grand Line with his partners who shared the same dream. In the fight and snatch along the way, he successfully won his own devil fruit, which greatly improved his strength. However, on the way to the New World, Mad Wolf was attacked by other pirate groups, and his partners suffered heavy casualties. Frustrated, he gave up the dream of pursuing One Piece and returned to the Grand Line. Relying on his own strength, he integrated the pirate forces in the current sea area and began to engage in the business of occupying land and becoming the king without capital. Because of his compliance with the rules and strong strength, the power of the Mad Wolf gradually grew, and even attracted the attention of the Navy. However, in order to maintain a relative balance, the Navy also chose to turn a blind eye. The moment he saw Finn, he seemed to see the man who easily defeated him. The temperament of the two was so similar. He was grateful for being able to survive at the beginning, and he also knew that in this sea, strength is everything, strength is supreme, and the winner is the king. This is also the reason why he has not indulged in sensual pleasures for so many years and has maintained the habit of exercising, because he is very sober. The two sides looked at each other and remained silent. After a while, the Mad Wolf spoke first. I am the Mad Wolf. Who are you? I don't know why you come to my chassis. Why do you come for me? Finn also looked at the Mad Wolf, who was more than 3 meters tall, with a rough appearance, a strong muscle, and an age of more than 30 to less than 40. Obviously, this is the first generation of seafarers in the Great Pirate Era. Being able to survive until now, he obviously has some strength, and Finn couldn't help but think highly of him. Urent D. Finn, I heard that there is a powerful fruit ability user nearby, and I want to see your ability, Finn said lightly. Mad Wolf knew that this was a challenge to him. Since he set foot on the sea, he has experienced countless challenges, including those young people who don't know how high the sky is and want to step on his name to get to the top, and those pirates who intend to replace him. But when others challenged him alone, he couldn't refuse it, because it was a contest that showed his courage. On this sea, people believe in strength first, and also admire heroic spirit. Refusing a challenge means being considered timid and being despised and spurned by his subordinates. Even if he might be defeated, he couldn't avoid it. Every pirate hopes that his captain is a real strong man who is willing to accept various challenges. However, they also understand that on this sea, no one can be undefeated forever, and accepting defeat is also part of this cruel world. When the pirates around heard Finn's name, they were all confused. They had no idea when such a strong man appeared on the sea, and they all whispered to each other. Who knows this man? Where did he come from? This is not a newcomer to the Grand Line. Looking at his appearance, he seems to be quite powerful. Does anyone know what the dark red belt around his waist is? Obviously, the people around also felt that the newcomer was not a weakling. He was able to face so many of them calmly without changing his face, and he came from the sea. These 2 points are enough to prove his extraordinary strength. Well, let me see your ability, said the crazy wolf in the same straightforward manner. Seeing this, Finn couldn't help but look up to him. He is worthy of being in charge of a sea area and has been the boss for many years. He is courageous and bold. At this time, the people around stepped back tacitly, leaving a large area of ground for Finn and their boss. At this time, the whispers around had disappeared, and there was silence. Everyone was concentrating on the competition, some expecting, some worried, and their expressions were different. Come on, take action, let me see your strength, Finn said lightly after looking around. The Mad Wolf did not intend to continue to give in, and quickly attacked Finn, as fast as lightning and as fierce as a gust of wind. However, Finn always raised his hand lightly and easily blocked the Mad Wolf's attack. Whether it was a fierce slash or a fierce punch and kick, it was like a calm lake in front of Finn, and was easily resolved wave after wave. Seeing this, Crazy Wolf was quite anxious and increased the intensity of his attack, but Finn seemed to be an indestructible mountain, as stable as Mount Tai, unmoved, as if the battle with Crazy Wolf was just a game. The pirates watching showed astonishment. They looked at the man who came from the sea in disbelief, and could so easily resist the fierce attack of Crazy Wolf. Are you still not going to show your fruit ability? Finn said. Seeing that his attack was useless to Finn, Mad Wolf knew that Finn was a super strong man who mastered domineering. As a pirate who had been in the Grand Line for many years, he was very clear about the power system on the sea. He used to be a swordsman. After obtaining the devil fruit, he gave up the practice of swordsmanship and turned to physical training in order to better match the power of the fruit. Domineering was the purpose of his physical training. Mad Wolf realized that it was difficult to compete with Finn in human form, so he decided to activate the strongest werewolf form. He stimulated the power of the devil fruit, and his body suddenly changed into a 5-meter-tall werewolf. His sharp claws and fangs were revealed. This was also the reason why he gave up swordsmanship. The claws were comparable to sharp weapons. At this time, a fierce atmosphere spread, and he began to attack Finn again in a ferocious werewolf form. In the werewolf form, every attack of Mad Wolf was powerful. When his claws swung, the air seemed to be cut, making a sharp and piercing sound. Between the wolf's fangs, there flashed a sharp cold light, as if it could tear all life apart. The surrounding ground cracked under his footsteps, the ground collapsed, and the soil and rocks splashed, as if the field had experienced an earthquake. However, No matter how fierce his attack was, Finn was as calm as flowing water. Everyone was stunned and could not believe what they saw. The strength shown by the mad wolf had already shocked them, and Finn's easy response was even more shocking. This strength was beyond their cognition. Under the fierce attack of the mad wolf, whether it was the crazy cutting of the claws or the huge force of the blow, Finn's armed color and observation color were as indestructible as an iron wall. In the face of this impeccable defense, the mad wolf's attack was like a stone cow entering the sea, with no effect. Finn stood there, with a calm expression, as if he was facing only a breeze. However, the ground where Finn stood had already collapsed due to the huge impact, forming a pit half a meter deep. This was only the indirect damage caused by the powerful offensive of the crazy wolf, which shows the ferocity of the crazy wolf's attack. At this time, Finn had accurately judged the strength of the crazy wolf, which had reached the level of a rear admiral, but there was a huge gap between him and himself. So Finn, who decided to end the battle, reminded the crazy wolf that he was about to launch an attack. Pay attention. In an instant, he entered the state of the second style of the god of war, and then empty stab. 4 fingers stabbed out like a sword. It seemed to be a simple move, but it showed amazing power in an instant. An invisible force cut through the air, forming an extremely sharp slash. The crazy wolf only felt a gust of wind passing by, and the sea surface behind him had been cut into a gully of 100 meters, and the sea water instantly poured in. The scene was spectacular. The people who witnessed this scene couldn't help but feel numb and stunned. Looking at the dazed people, the crazy wolf couldn't help but look back, and then his face showed unprecedented shock and astonishment. Obviously, he had understood that his life and death just now depended on this moment. Obviously, at this moment, Finn has ended the battle that belongs to the mad wolf, and his goal has been achieved. From today on, his name will also be praised in Yunwu Island. Mad Wolf also realized that Finn's strength was beyond his imagination, but he did not feel humiliated. Instead, he was a little curious about Finn's letting him go. "Why don't you kill me? I'm a pirate," Mad Wolf turned around and asked nervously. "The Navy's affairs have nothing to do with me," Finn said lightly. "Do you want to seize my territory and recruit my pirate group?" Mad Wolf suddenly asked, thinking for a moment that Finn was here to recruit him, with a hint of worry and vigilance in his tone. "No, I just want to ask you about some things, and I won't interfere in your affairs," Finn said lightly. "That's right, a strong man like you obviously doesn't look down on our little fights," Mad Wolf said a little lonely. After hearing this, Finn remained silent. He himself is not a pirate, so don't think too much. He just wanted to make a name for himself and learn about the surrounding situation. However, Finn obviously did not intend to make any explanation, because the strong need no explanation. Finn followed the Mad Wolf to the base of the pirate group, a manor covering an area of more than 10 acres. This manor looked quite luxurious, and Finn couldn't help but sigh that these pirates really knew how to enjoy themselves. He muttered in his heart, "They live better than me." At this time, Finn, Mad Wolf and his 8 cadres gathered in the hall of the manor. Finn sat calmly in the main seat, his eyes swept around, and he couldn't help but feel a faint envy for this luxurious territory. Finn curiously asked about the origin of the Mad Wolf. He felt that the Mad Wolf was not the kind of person who was forced to go to sea. He was clearly a man with a strong character, a martial artist with a solid foundation in cultivation. Quang Lang described that he came from a wealthy family in the North Sea. His father was the chief guard of a large local chamber of commerce and had considerable prestige in the surrounding area. With his strong qualifications, the young Quang Lang quickly surpassed his father. With greater ambitions, he embarked on the Great Channel. Finn was a little upset at the moment. "You are here for Versailles, right?" Finn kept muttering in his heart. This script was obviously a game played by a rich young man who was rich, powerful, and knew martial arts in order to realize his personal ambitions. It's unfair, it's really unfair. This scene also made Finn fall into deeper thinking. Are those big pirates who stir up trouble in the New World all those who met masters at sea and were taught martial arts? Wouldn't most of them be a group of rich kids who were dissatisfied with the status quo and eager to become the pirate king? I used to sympathize with these big pirates and thought they were forced to resist. It turned out that I was wishful thinking. But when he heard that Quang Lang couldn't go back, the North Sea was next to the New World. If he wanted to go back, he had to enter the new world and pass through the calm belt. Obviously, with his strength, this was full of great danger. However, he didn't want to take such a risk. At this time, Finn finally felt better, and a trace of gloating surged in his heart, as if it was a kind of satisfaction that you finally couldn't show off. Quang Lang pointed to the sea chart on the wall and began to introduce the pirate group. He introduced that the Quang Lang pirate group now controls the situation of Yunwu Island and its surrounding waters. These are all recognized by strength in fierce battles with many pirate groups. The symbol of the pirate group is a bright red wolf skull flag, which shows endless fighting and wildness. Quang Lang introduced his 8 cadres one by one, including Vice Captain Diablo, Ship Dr. Lisa Beth, Sniper Blake and others, each of whom has unique skills. This group of special individuals met in the vastness of the sea due to the guidance of fate, and established a deep tacit understanding in countless adventures. Mad Wolf also described the huge size of the team to Finn. He proudly talked about the team of 1,000 people, which brought together members from all corners of the sea. Finn continued to ask about the strength of the pirates on the sea. Mad Wolf responded that he did not know about the New World and could only share some information about the Grand Line. As far as he knew, the Grand Line was controlled by the Navy and had the strongest strength. However, this did not mean that the Navy could fully control every sea area on the Grand Line, because this waterway was too vast. In order to ensure the safety of the Navy on the Grand Line and prevent its dominance from being threatened, the powerful pirate groups had only 2 choices: either venture into the New World or wait to be captured by the Navy. The pirate groups currently mixed in the Grand Line are roughly the same strength as the Mad Wolf pirates, and they have to act carefully and not expand the situation too much to avoid damaging the face of the Navy. Therefore, there are very few strong people who have domineering power on the Grand Line, and the real strong people are more inclined to compete for a larger sphere of influence in a new world with more power and more freedom. That is the ultimate goal in their hearts, and they often look down on those pirate groups who only dare to steal on the Grand Line. So it is rare to see real strong people on the Grand Line. Of course, if the Grand Line is really peaceful and the pirate groups abide by the rules, then it does not deserve the name of great. This sea area is full of a large number of small pirate groups. In order to survive, they have no bottom line. From getting involved in the slave trade to raiding and robbing on the shore, even including assassination and smuggling and other despicable acts, as long as there is money, there will always be people willing to do it, and the key to the problem is often the amount of money. It is precisely because of the existence of these pirate groups that the strength of the Navy is dispersed, so the Navy has to turn a blind eye to these big pirates who rule one side, because they really can't spare enough manpower to deal with it. At the same time, they are also worried that if they take radical actions against these powerful pirate groups, it may cause a more chaotic and uncontrollable situation, so they maintain this complex and delicate balance. Finn asked Mad Wolf about the medicinal materials of Cloud Mist Island, but Mad Wolf said he didn't know about it. However, he pointed out that there is one person who knows the medicinal materials of Cloud Mist Island very well, and that is Lisa Beth, the ship doctor of the Mad Wolf pirates. Lisa Beth revealed to Finn that she was born in a medical family and started learning how to identify medicinal materials and recite knowledge related to medicinal materials since she was a child. The purpose of her going to sea was to see more medicines and improve her own medicine atlas. Later, by chance, she came to the waters of Cloud Mist Island and joined the Mad Wolf pirates. Finn, after hearing Lizabeth's story, he became very interested in her professional knowledge. He felt that it was easy to get what he wanted, and at the same time he was quite touched. In this world, it is not easy to become a qualified pirate without a unique skill. This made him rethink the wonders of this world. Is the power of dreams really so strong? So many talented young people embark on a long voyage for their dreams. However, it is obvious that these are difficult for Finn to understand because he has no such experience. In his previous life, there may not be the kind of fascinating dream power, but more realistic considerations and social pressure. For this new world, he is still gradually understanding and adapting, and has not yet fully understood some of its strangeness. In the end, after careful consideration, Finn did not choose to reveal his guess about the medicinal materials, but took the medicinal materials illustrations lent by Lizabeth and left alone, returning to the Yunwu Island villa arranged by Alex. After returning to Alex's villa, Finn looked through Lizabeth's herbal illustrations while waiting for things to ferment. Finn originally thought that this kind of small fight would only attract the attention of the forces near Yunwu country, but he didn't expect that the first to attract the Navy, and it was Admiral Aokiji who came in person. This clearly shows that the Navy has made a new assessment of Finn's risk factor. What he didn't know was that his existence made the upper echelons of the Navy on the Grand Line feel very passive. Since Finn is not a pirate, the Navy can't find a legitimate reason to deal with him, but it has to take measures to prevent potential risks, making the Navy, which is already limited in strength, even more stretched. The Navy is now facing the problem of how to deal with Finn, a powerful individual, while also maintaining control over other pirate groups. Finn's existence undoubtedly makes the whole situation complicated and subtle. In such a situation, the Navy has to act cautiously and take some measures to deal with the possible impact of Finn. So Aokiji, who was on a mission nearby, was sent to understand Finn's true purpose. At this time, a man in a white suit appeared on the sea, riding a bicycle slowly and heading straight to the villa. Finn had already sensed it through his observation color. With such ability, a hint of charm in the comics, Finn already knew who the visitor was. At this moment, the other people in the villa were surprised by his amazing skills of riding a bicycle on the sea, and Alex also hurried over. On the sea, a man in a white suit appeared, riding a bicycle slowly and heading straight to the villa. Finn had already sensed the identity of the visitor through his observation color, the ability to freeze the sea, a hint of charm in the comics, and Finn already knew who the visitor was. However, the other people in the villa were surprised by the behavior of riding a bicycle on the sea, and Alex also hurried over, looking a little nervous. However, Finn had already arrived at the door of the villa one step ahead and told Alex that the visitor was Admiral Aokiji of the Navy, and asked everyone not to panic, and he would go out for a while. Alex was stunned after hearing this, and everyone looked at each other, thinking that they had heard it wrong. The Admiral, the man of power standing at the top of the sea, actually came to meet Finn in person. At this moment, everyone's mood was like being stirred by huge waves, and it was difficult to calm down. Alex was even more ecstatic at this moment. He always knew that Finn was extraordinary, but he never thought that he could have an equal dialogue with the Admiral of the Navy. He was glad that he had been very patient and attentive in entertaining Finn before. In Alex's view, it was his own luck to meet Finn. On the sea, the two men stood there, staring at each other. Aokiji was the first to break the silence. "Urent D. Finn." Finn responded calmly. "Mr. Aokiji, I have heard of your name for a long time. I wonder what you want to talk to me about." Aokiji's deep eyes were as sharp as a knife, pointing directly to the point. "Your purpose, the purpose of coming to Yunwu Island." Finn smiled easily. "Oh, how can I be so virtuous that the Admiral of the Navy came to ask questions in person, ha ha ha. I just want to study herbal medicine. That's all. You Navy don't need to pay too much attention to me, I have no interest in being a pirate." Aokiji paused slightly, feeling a little unbelievable and unbelievable. Studying herbal medicine, you? He wondered if he had heard it wrong. Finn smiled. "It's me. Do you find it incredible? This is the truth. This should not be illegal, ha ha ha." Aokiji shook his head and sighed in relief. "Forget it, it's Sengoku who should be worried. I'm only responsible for questioning." His tone seemed lazy, as if he didn't care much about Finn's answer. Seeing that Aokiji seemed to be just asking a few routine questions, Finn was also a little surprised. "I thought I would be warned or under more surveillance, but I didn't expect Aokiji to seem a little lazy." "Forget it, this has nothing to do with me," Finn thought. However, after thinking about it carefully, he felt that something seemed wrong. Isn't this the working life that all workers dreamed of in their previous lives? High salary, free and easy, while I am here to comment on others, thinking that others are not dedicated enough. It's true that others laugh at me for being too crazy, and I laugh at others for not seeing through it, and I keep saying MMP in my heart." Finn shook his head and smiled. This self-righteous foresight actually made him feel a little inflated. He realized that the sense of superiority that came with the time travel made him lose his awe of this world. This is the real world, real life, not a game that can be deleted and played again. Finn decided to reflect on his attitude and truly integrate into it. Aokiji saw Finn's rich expression for a while, and he was also face confused. Finn also felt Aokiji's expression, and both sides were embarrassed. Seeing that Aokiji was so easy to talk to, Finn suddenly had some thoughts about communicating with the admiral. After all, as a Navy admiral, Aokiji must be more familiar with this world than himself. Finn felt that this was a rare opportunity, not only to learn more about the Navy and the sea, but also to obtain some secrets that ordinary people could hardly know. So, Finn directly proposed the idea of entertaining Aokiji, as if he had tacitly agreed to Aokiji's promise. Without asking too much about his opinion, he directly planned to take Aokiji to the villa. Aokiji was also speechless, but fortunately, the two sides were not in a hostile relationship. He did not slap Finn's face and followed Finn to the villa. This sudden exchange made the atmosphere a little unexpected and interesting. The two walked towards the villa one after the other, and the people around them couldn't help but exchange glances curiously, wondering what would happen next. Soon, the sumptuous lunch was served one after another under Alex's careful preparation. Only Aokiji and Finn sat face to face at the round table full of delicious food. Alex obviously withdrew with self-awareness. This level of communication was obviously not something he could participate in. The table was full of various delicious foods, and the aroma was fragrant. The atmosphere between Finn and Aokiji seemed a little subtle. After all, one was a Navy admiral and the other was a powerful person who was not a pirate. Such a scene was not common. The two were speechless, and only the sound of tableware colliding and food echoed in the silent house. At this time, Finn suddenly broke the silence. "Mr. Aokiji, I wonder if Mr. Garp is okay." In order to get closer to the two sides, Finn asked about Garp's current situation. Aokiji responded with a little surprise. "Oh, it seems that you are very familiar with Vice Admiral Garp." When Finn described in detail his encounter with Garp and the year he spent in Windmill Village, the conversation between the two of them unknowingly brought them closer. Aokiji responded lightly. "Vice Admiral Garp is really cool, enjoying donuts every day, sleeping in a long sleep, and having a fleet of sailors serving him and traveling around. Just thinking about it makes people envious. And like me, I do everything myself and keep running around everywhere. Busy life." In this relaxed conversation, the atmosphere between Finn and Aokiji gradually became more relaxed, as if the two old friends were chatting casually. However, Aokiji was not stupid, and he also asked about Finn's background and asked, "I don't know what devil fruit brother Finn ate, it seems to be extremely powerful." Looking at Aokiji's expression that he was sure that he had eaten a devil fruit and was a capable person, Finn could only smile lightly and responded, "I'm not a person with special abilities. I don't know how you can have such a perception. Have I used abilities related to devil fruits?" Finn asked back. "That's incredible. At Finn's age, he has achieved such achievements in physical skills. I can't believe it." Aokiji obviously didn't quite believe it. He thought that at this age, he was far from Finn's opponent. Who is not a genius? This is obviously unreasonable. Ha ha ha, then you don't know. I practiced hard, day after day, year after year, and I dare not slack off for a day. Finn laughed and said, obviously, being recognized as powerful still made him feel a little secretly happy. Don't disbelieve it. Do you know what my strongest skill is? It's swimming. I dare say no one can swim better than me, he, Finn continued. Aokiji was obviously a little stunned. Could it be that this kid really didn't eat the devil fruit? He was really so amazing. He felt a little uncomfortable for a while, and felt that he had lived like a dog for so many years. However, Aokiji did not continue to argue, but prepared to get straight to the point and asked directly, I wonder what is the purpose of Brother Finn's entertaining me? Ha ha ha, mainly I want to ask you some questions. Of course, if you think it is a secret, then don't say it. Finn said immediately. Well, Aokiji responded lightly. Brother Aokiji, you have been fighting on the sea for so many years. What do you think of the Conqueror's hockey? Finn asked directly the question he had always been concerned about. Aokiji replied lightly. Brother Finn, you are asking the wrong person. I don't have Conqueror's hockey, and I don't have much say. However, there are not many people who have Conqueror's hockey in the entire sea, and those who can use it in battle are even rarer. If you are unlucky, you will never meet it in your life. But looking at your strength, you should be able to meet it. As for the others, I can't say, I can only tell you, with the blessing of Conqueror's hockey, the attack is more powerful, as if it has spirituality and emotions. Quote, spirituality, emotions, Finn kept repeating in his mouth, and he became more and more certain in his heart. It seems that the direction of my previous speculation about Conqueror's hockey should be correct. If you want to know more about Conqueror's hockey, I suggest you ask Vice Admiral Garb. He often fought with Roger when he was young. Roger is a master who is good at using Conqueror's hockey. He should have rich experience. Aokiji casually shifted the topic to Garb, obviously not wanting to continue talking about this topic. Finn did not pester him, and it might be a bit abrupt to continue asking. The etiquette of the world still needs to be considered. Continuing to ask others about things that they obviously don't have may make the atmosphere awkward. Finn turned to ask, where can I learn about herbs? Aokiji was obviously stunned, thinking to himself, is this guy serious? This question made Aokiji feel a little confused, but he still answered realistically. In this world, knowledge is the capital for survival. The inheritance of herbal medicine is very deep, and it is not easy for outsiders to learn it. Quote, Finn, obviously prepared for this result, accepted it calmly. Then, Finn also asked some trivial questions, and the two sides ended the meal happily. Aokiji rode his worn-out bicycle and left leisurely with Finn's farewell. Chapter 31. In the week after Aokiji left, Finn was absorbed in reading the Herbal Medicine Atlas every day. Not only did he borrow the one from the ship's Dr. Elisabeth, he also asked Alex to collect a few books, carefully identifying the herbs and plants in the atlas, and remembering their uses, and even reading the doctor's experience in how to use them together to treat various diseases. Finn's concentration on learning this week surprised himself, and he couldn't help but sigh that if he had such a strong desire to learn in his previous life, he might not have been so miserable. Finn's enthusiasm for drugs and medicine grew more and more during this week. Afterwards, he also asked Alex to invite the presidents of major chambers of commerce and respected doctors nearby to have an exchange. Of course, no one would not give face to Finn now. Because now, Finn's reputation has long been spread throughout the upper class of Yunwu Island, and almost everyone knows it. Many people want to come and visit every day. At the exchange meeting, Finn enthusiastically shared his ideas about strengthening the human body with medicinal materials, hoping to get some feedback and resonance. However, most of the participants were skeptical of his ideas, thinking that these concepts were too advanced and unrealistic. Finn also realized that the concept of strengthening the human body with medicinal materials did not seem to exist in this era. Of course, Finn himself also knew that his ideas were too fantasy-like. For example, he asked doctors to think about whether medicinal materials could be used to stimulate the body's transformation, strengthen the skin and bones, and make them as strong as steel, so that swords could not cause damage, or whether medicinal materials could be used to make the internal organs more powerful and stronger, and so on. These ideas made some doctors even think that Finn might be crazy for a while, thinking that this was completely a fantasy and had no common sense. The medical field in this world has always focused on experiments and experience, and some of Finn's ideas seemed too bizarre to them, far from the medical concepts they accepted. In their view, the structure and function of the human body have been optimized in the long process of evolution. To achieve the Superman-like evolution proposed by Finn is almost an unprecedented challenge in the history of medicine. They think it is unrealistic and ridiculous. As the communication deepened, Finn gradually realized that some of his previous ideas or fantasies were just castles in the air. It's like a person traveling back to ancient times and telling others that they can use gunpowder to build rockets and fly to outer space. Completely ignoring the process of gunpowder evolving into rockets, ignoring what kind of gunpowder can be used to build rockets, which requires breakthroughs in countless disciplines and almost requires the improvement of the entire civilization knowledge system. In the same way, some of his ideas are just like using gunpowder to build rockets in ancient times, which is unrealistic. Finn began to reflect on whether his ideas were too idealistic, and whether he ignored the limitations of the times and reality while trying to change the world. He also understood that the development of the medical field requires gradual efforts, not miracles that can be achieved overnight. Finn realized that some of the concepts he proposed, such as the methods in the novel such as body refining and internal organs refining, may be the wisdom formed after countless years and countless people optimizing and summarizing. For the readers, these methods seem to produce strange effects by simply playing some special postures, which is simply unscientific. But maybe those few movements belong to the wisdom and summary of an era. However, Fine originally just wanted to attract the capital bosses of the Chamber of Commerce to join the game by throwing out this topic, and work with these respected doctors to study the mysteries of the human body with the power of the crowd. However, the reaction he faced was not as he wished, but this was reasonable. After all, the capital bosses of the Chamber of Commerce are more inclined to invest in projects that can directly bring profits rather than forward-looking research in the medical field, while doctors pay more attention to traditional medical practice, and feel unfamiliar and difficult to accept Finn's ideas for a while. Fine also knows that the ideas he proposed are indeed a bit abrupt. After all, he just moved some concepts and phenomena in the novels of his previous life to this world, and he is not sure whether these are feasible in this new environment. He just mentioned it casually and did not pay any substantial price. If someone can really open up the situation based on his ideas and create new ideas, it will be a huge success for him. In Finn's view, this tentative attempt is like throwing a seed, which may sprout and take root at some point and become the starting point of future innovation. He does not expect his ideas to be recognized immediately. He hopes to inspire more people in this way and promote the development of this era. Development. Finn maintained an optimistic and open attitude towards his attempts, looking forward to the unpredictable variables that might emerge. As the exchange ended, Finn did not show too much disappointment, but instead said goodbye to everyone enthusiastically. He understood that others had given him face by participating in the exchange. Although Finn himself did not gain much, there was one person who made a lot of money, that was Alex, who showed his face and did not regret his careful hospitality to Finn. However, this exchange was not completely fruitless. Finn knew that studying the role of drugs in promoting physical transformation was somewhat epical, and it was obviously not the right time now. Maybe one day in the future it could be done. After abandoning some unrealistic fantasies, Finn did not give up the exploration of herbs, but continued to explore the potential value of herbs. He believed that herbs must have absorbed nutrients from the world in the process of continuous growth, and as time went by, the medicinal effect would definitely gradually increase. Finn believed that this medicinal effect must have some effect on the human body, so he decided to try it himself. Since Shenong tasted hundreds of herbs before, it would be a good story for Finn to try the elixir now. Finn dared to try the herbs himself because he believed that with his current physical fitness and the degree of life return, there should be no risk to his life. Only with this kind of personal practice can he experience the impact of herbs on the body more intuitively and feel the stimulation and changes of the drugs on the body most clearly. The next day, Finn said goodbye to Alex directly, explained his whereabouts, and then walked straight into the depths of the primitive jungle, and embarked on the road of exploring elixirs alone. In the foggy forest, the tall trees were like huge obstacles, blocking the view of the sky, so that the thin sunlight could only barely shine through the fog and onto the ground, and the whole environment seemed dim. Looking around, the mountains were stacked like a huge maze, shrouded in thick fog, showing deep and unfathomable. At the same time, Finn also sensed the fierce breath hidden in the surrounding environment. Of course, these beasts in the primitive jungle, no matter how big, obviously did not pose a threat to Finn now. Finn crossed the dense trees, stepped on the roots of the trees, and crossed between the branches of the huge trees. The deeper he went, the lower the visibility and the more dangers there were around. Obviously, the beasts that lived in this environment for many years had already adapted. Although Finn was not afraid of beasts, he hated snakes, scorpions and poisonous insects, which had nothing to do with how strong he was. He still carefully bypassed the area entangled by vines, always keeping vigilant to avoid unexpected dangers. However, there is no obvious path to follow in the jungle, and the thick fog seriously affects the visual senses. Finn can only rely on his observation haki to observe the subtle changes in the environment to perceive the potential dangers. And most of the time, he can only consume his domineering and physical strength to walk in the air. Finn finally understood why the medicinal materials in this deep mountain can be preserved so well, because of the huge dangers. These threats not only come from common beasts, but also from more hidden dangers, which may be the venom of some plants, or poisonous insects lurking in the thick fog. However, with the special ability of observation haki to listen to the voice of all things, Finn can continue to explore in the mountains and forests surrounded by thick fog, cross the sea of trees that cover the sky, and trek through the dense jungle. This primitive jungle mountain is well preserved, as if it was waiting for Finn to come. In a forest full of poisonous insects, Finn found a rare herb, whose leaves exuded a faint herbal fragrance. He carefully picked a piece and observed its fine texture. This is the yuyun tang, which has powerful therapeutic effects and can treat congenital defects of internal organs. This plant is at least hundreds of years old. Under a hidden cave, a special fern growing on a damp stone wall was found. It is the Kui Lan fern, which has a magical effect of refreshing. A magical plant about 1 meter high was found on the cliff. Its leaves are soft and smooth, dark green, and exude a fresh fragrance. It is the legendary Xingwei grass. The illustration describes it as an excellent tonic for the body. The most notable feature is that it has powerful anti-aging, enhances immunity and kidney function, and helps to improve the health level of the body. At the same time, it is said to have a positive effect on regulating blood pressure and promoting metabolism. It is often rewarded by the rich at a high price and is snapped up as soon as it appears. Finn was extremely delighted with this top-quality medicinal material, especially this one, which was over 1,000 years old and the best of the best. Obviously, it would have a stronger medicinal effect, and Finn could not help but look forward to it. Finn continued to explore, relying on the perception of the color of seeing and hearing, and all the special smells were invisible. On this mysterious island of clouds and mist, he gradually discovered rich and precious medicinal materials. Finn's capsule contains various medicines such as blue luo grass, dragon spine flower, and orchid branches, each of which has a unique therapeutic effect. Blue luo grass exudes a faint fragrance and is a good choice for treating stomach problems, promoting gastric peristalsis, and strengthening digestion. Dragon spine flower is believed to have the effect of refreshing the mind and is a rare health medicine. And orchid branches are an extremely rare plant, which is said to have the magical effect of enhancing the body's immunity and self-healing ability. These herbs each have unique pharmacological properties, and they are all over 100 years old, and some have even entered 1,000 years. Finn knows how precious they are, so he will only pick them when he is sure that they are necessary. Many medicinal herbs were only marked at their locations. When a safe place to live was found, they would be carefully picked after returning. After a week of traveling among the mountains, Finn finally found a picturesque valley. In this quiet valley, a clear freshwater lake came into view, and a small hot spring rising from the edge of the lake emitted pleasant steam. The surrounding mountains, like a guard, provided a mysterious shelter for this quiet corner. This picturesque scene brought a beautiful end to Finn's long and arduous adventure. Finn was filled with joy and relief. He finally found an ideal place for living and resting. The surface of the lake was sparkling and blue like the sky, surrounded by green trees and blooming mountain flowers. The existence of the small hot spring added a sense of tranquility and warmth to the valley. Finn felt the warmth emanating from the hot spring, as if this was a dreamlike shelter prepared by nature for him. Observing the surroundings carefully, Finn found that this valley was a gathering place for many animals. They came to the lake to drink water. Obviously, Finn had no shortage of food around this lake. Finn felt that this was an ideal place to set up camp, and he decided to build a stable temporary base here. Finn stood in front of the mountain wall not far from the lake, staring at the hard rock. He was determined to use his strength to build a habitat of his own in this valley. Hitting with his fists and digging with his palms, Finn easily cut on the stone wall under the cover of armed color and huge power, as smooth as a knife through butter. In less than a day, Finn easily dug out 2 houses in the hard mountain wall, a bedroom and a hall. The hall has enough space to place enough medicinal materials. While digging the house, Finn cleverly used the stones he dug out. Small pieces of stone were used to pave the ground outside the house to compact the foundation. For the larger stones, Finn piled them up and tied them together with vines to create a small rockery. This small rockery was carefully built by Finn and will be used as exercise equipment. It weighs about 10,000 kilograms. Finn can lift it normally. Obviously, it is a very suitable choice as exercise equipment. After completing these preparations, Finn also went to Alex to retrieve a large pot and some daily necessities that he had customized before. The radius of this large pot reached 1 meter. It was effortless in Finn's hands. It only took half a day at full speed. Then Finn began to classify the rich medicinal materials he had harvested. According to the efficacy and age of the medicine, the medicinal materials were classified and placed in different areas in an orderly manner. Everything was ready. Finn felt that the time was ripe and decided to start the next drug test here. For Finn, who had died once, life was particularly precious. He had always dreamed of transcending the shackles of life and death and achieving eternal immortality. His desire for this was like a fish's thirst for water, and it had become an obsession that could not be shaken off. This obsession was also the driving force that drove him forward. Since he was going to try the medicine, Finn decided to directly consume the herbs to experience the changes in his body and verify whether the herbs could induce the transformation of the body. He began to select some plants described in the medical atlas as beneficial to the internal organs, especially some rare plants with a medicinal age of more than 100 years. Finn cut the herbs into thin slices, and each piece of herb exuded a unique aroma. Then he took a deep breath, put them into his mouth without hesitation, and swallowed them directly into his stomach. Finn closed his eyes and immersed himself in the drug trial, expecting the herbs to bring positive effects on the physical level. When the herbs entered his body, Finn immediately felt a warm energy spreading rapidly. His internal organs seemed to be infused with vigorous power, and every organ in his body began to operate rapidly and powerfully. As time went on, Finn felt his body temperature gradually rise, his blood flow accelerated, his heart beat more powerfully, and tiny beads of sweat began to emerge from his forehead, indicating that his body was being stimulated by a surge of energy. The biological energy mixed in the blood began to be transmitted to every organ in the body, and the cells in the body began to operate rapidly and powerfully, consuming this sudden energy. Gradually, Finn's perception became more acute, his strength became stronger, and he felt unusually comfortable and powerful, like a powerful medicine. Finn felt that his whole body seemed to be catalyzed by a mysterious force, and every cell became active under the guidance of this force. However, interestingly, although his whole body was full of vitality, he did not feel any essential changes in his body. Finn realized that this was just a manifestation of excessive nourishment, which made him a little disappointed. Finn, who did not give up, emptied his mind again and focused on feeling the stimulation from his body. However, unfortunately, after the feeling, everything remained the same. However, one or two failures will not stop Finn. He thought that maybe he could adjust the dosage or find other combinations of drugs to achieve the desired effect. Finn was determined to continue the experiment and constantly explore the delicate balance between the body and the drug. Finn started a new round of experiments, and each time he carefully felt the changes in his body. A week passed, and the century-old medicinal materials were almost consumed. Finn was still carefully feeling the subtle changes that might occur in his body, but he still did not see the desired effect. Finn also found that the power from the inside seemed to be a delicate and balanced state, full of power without losing flexibility. Finn felt his body in detail. Finn sighed. Maybe it was really as those doctors said, the body was the product of tens of thousands of years of evolution, the composition of the organs had been selected, and the material was almost irreplaceable. Organs absorb substances from the outside world, decompose and digest, and generate energy, just like machines, consuming raw materials and generating capacity for output, but the essence of the machine is still a machine, and it will not change because of the addition of raw materials. Finn realized that the addition of drugs only gave the organs more energy for operation, allowing the human body to maintain higher than normal vital signs under this stimulation. When the energy of the drugs was consumed, life would still return to its original state. At this time, Finn seemed to have a glimmer of enlightenment. It seems that the complexity of the human body is probably not so easy and simple to decipher. It seems that using the mutual promotion and mutual restraint of drugs to transform the internal organs is not feasible. But the medicinal properties of medicinal materials can indeed promote the efficient operation of various organs in the human body. With this understanding, Finn immediately decided to promote the changes in the body from the outside to the inside, and practice step by step to make the body gradually stronger. He seemed to believe that when the whole is gradually becoming stronger, the parts as the composition of the whole must also be constantly stronger. Finn decided to make full use of the advantages of medicinal materials to more efficiently stimulate the potential power of the body, and then continue to practice to achieve a comprehensive improvement of the body in order to explore the true path of transformation. Finn's practice method is very simple. He used the previous rockery and the pressure brought by the weight of tens of thousands of pounds. By letting the body gradually adapt from discomfort, Finn believed that when the body can bear enough weight, there must be a critical point that can distinguish the difference between an ordinary human body and an extraordinary human body. He firmly believed that an arm that can bear 10,000 kilograms and an arm that can bear 100,000 kilograms could not be the same substance. Finn mobilized the armament hockey and quickly wrapped his entire body, instantly like wearing a solid armor. The purpose of the whole-body armament hockey is to protect the body on the one hand, to prevent the bones and skin from being damaged under great pressure. On the other hand, through continuous consumption and generation, the armament hockey is cultivated. It is not so easy to lift a rockery weighing tens of thousands of pounds. The contact surface between the palm and the rockery is small, and it is impossible to bear the huge force of tens of thousands of pounds. Finn can only wrap the whole rockery with armament hockey. The ground is also difficult to bear such weight, and the position where the feet stand has a tendency to collapse. Finn has to wrap it with armament hockey to prevent the ground from collapsing. Finn's way of dealing with it is not only his proficiency in armament hockey, but also his superb understanding of body control. Taking a deep breath, Finn grasped the hard surface of the rockery tightly and felt the heavy weight. Armament hockey flows in his hands, forming a layer of transparent armor, providing him with additional support and stability. He steadied his breath, then slowly bent his knees, holding both sides of the rockery with both hands. Strength continued to flow out of his body, and his arms lifted the rockery little by little, with calm and slow movements. When the rockery was lifted to a high enough height, Finn entered the squatting movement. The knees were bent, the hips sank, and gradually approached the ground, a standard squatting posture. Throughout the process, Finn maintained the balance of his body and the accuracy of his posture, ensuring that the whole movement was smooth and powerful. His eyes were focused and steady, and the completion of each movement was an intuitive feeling of his body's strength. With a rockery weighing tens of thousands of pounds, Finn's movements seemed a little sluggish at first, but he soon found his own rhythm. The number of squats gradually increased, and the use of strength and armed color continued to improve. Gradually, during the training process, the weight of the rockery seemed to become his partner, pushing his body to gradually adapt to the changes in this strength, and his muscles, bones, and even every meridian were fully exercised. In this way, when Finn was not looking for medicinal herbs or hunting for food, he was mechanically repeating the same actions, except that the weight of the rockery was constantly increasing. Finn's daily routine is just a simple cycle. He covers the ground and rockery with armament hockey, then performs lifting, squatting, and standing training, repeating it continuously, and carefully feeling the changes in his body under the armament hockey. Whenever Finn feels that he is close to his limit or that his armament hockey is about to run out, he will stop, walk to the hot spring, and bathe in it. The heat of the hot spring allows his muscles to relax and repair, and also helps to dispel fatigue and soreness in the body. When the body feels hungry, he will step into the big pot on the side. This big pot with a diameter of 1 meter is always full of freshly caught beasts. The sumptuous meal, Finn eats and drinks a lot, not only to satisfy his appetite, but also the beast meat will bring rich nutrition to supplement the consumption caused by cultivation. In just 1 month, Finn consumed dozens of beasts, and all the herbs he had picked before were also consumed, which forced him to stop practicing and search for herbs and hunt for food. With the supply of resources at all costs, Finn's armament hockey is accumulating rapidly and his strength is also growing rapidly. After feeling this effect, Finn seemed to be injected with chicken blood, and every time he practiced, he went all out. Finn's life revolved around finding medicinal herbs, hunting prey, and repeated training. Although these actions seemed simple, they still allowed Finn to achieve a rapid improvement in combat power. Such an effect was not only due to his dedication to practice, but also the excellent qualifications that were unrivaled in ancient and modern times, which brought a practice bonus that could double the effect of all practice. However, the changes produced by Finn's practice were not only reflected in strength and armed color. What was more surprising was that under the tempering of domineering aura, his skin and bones actually showed a trend of gradually blackening, although it was very subtle. However, Finn was keenly aware of this change. He guessed that this might be the truth of body refining in this world, which required relying on armed color domineering aura to slowly assimilate the body over the years. Of course, he didn't think he was the first to discover it. He even thought that this should not be a secret. The strong in this world might have known it long ago, but they just thought it was meaningless. After all, in this world, there are rule-based devil fruits that can produce a one-hit kill effect. Therefore, in battle, no one would be stupid enough to use their body to resist the attack. Because no matter how strong the body is, can it be comparable to the armament color itself. This leads to people no longer choosing to use armament color to temper their bodies for a long time and improve their strength. But Finn is still as always, practicing tirelessly, and every movement is like carving the perfect combination of his body and armament color. Although there has been no substantial change in his internal organs. But he knows that the harvest is enough and he should not be greedy for more. But he still firmly believes that every effort is to lay the foundation for a greater transformation in the future. This is not only a physical training, but also a tempering of the mind. In fact, Finn is very eager to learn a training method like the Navy's systematization, but he also knows that it is difficult to obtain it in a short time. Therefore, he can only keep polishing through this simple action. Finn also understands that what he can do now is to make full use of the resources at hand and convert them into his own combat power as much as possible. Under such limited conditions, he could only do his best. In less than half a year, the rockery and the ground were gradually covered with a layer of black, like a black knife, and extremely hard. This is exactly what Finn achieved through the tempering of armed color. At the same time, this area has also undergone earth-shaking changes. The remains of various beasts are piled up around Finn's stone house, and each bone reveals a fierce breath, as if announcing to the world its ferocity in life. In the mountains and forests in the southeast, it is almost difficult to see the traces of beasts. Finn's powerful strength makes these wild beasts unable to resist, and they all stay away from this area, so the area around Finn's stone house is unusually quiet. All the medicinal herbs around that have been around for hundreds of years have been harvested by Finn, and all of them have become his nourishment for becoming stronger. Finn's existence swept through like a disaster, changing the ecological pattern of this land. However, he did not stop practicing, and he was still training tirelessly, constantly exercising his strength and domineering. At the same time, he also moved the hunting location to another mountain forest. With the training of strength and the tempering of armed color, Finn's body has also been strengthened again and again. Unintentionally planting willows have produced the effect of refining skin and strengthening bones that Finn has always pursued, and the essence of his body has undergone a transformation. After another half a year, with sufficient resource supply and continuous training, Finn's strength has reached 80,000 jin. He thinks that even the peak garp is no more than this, and the armament hockey is extremely condensed and sufficient. The Ryu Sakura has long been condensed into dark red, and the destructive power is incomparable. In a year, with the resources of the entire area consumed, Finn's strength has finally transformed to the Emperor level. Under the unlimited supply of resources, the daily accumulation of transformation energy has reached the limit, and the body shape has undergone earth-shaking changes. At this time, Finn is almost 4.5 meters tall, weighs more than 800 kilograms, has a shoulder width of nearly 2 meters, a strong upper body without any fat, and the muscles between the bones are like inlays, each of which is sharp and exquisite like a sculpture. This is the charm of armament hockey after thousands of hammers. The whole body is like a polished wall, majestic and solid, radiating a strong sense of oppression to the surroundings. His thighs are nearly half a meter thick, as if cast in iron, as if hiding incredible explosive power. With 2.8 meters of legs, his steps are extremely agile and powerful. His arms are like two copper pillars, with a diameter of 40 centimeters, and the muscle lines are clearly visible, and the explosive power is about to overflow. However, such strength does not make the body look dull or clumsy, but instead presents a kind of agile beauty. This is the subtle state of highly controlled power. Even though the body is huge, every step he takes is like a cheetah running, light and elastic, which is a perfect combination of strength and skills. Now Finn is really powerful. His panel also shows amazing numbers, and there are new features. Character: Urent D. Finn. Age: 20 years old. Qualification: LV5. Proud of the past and the present. 1 million. Transformation energy: 225,000. Features: copper skin and iron bones. Skills: life return, observation hockey, armament hockey, divine body flowing immortal, divine body gun god. Combat power. Emperor level. The moonlight sprinkled on Yunwu Island like water. On the highest mountain on the island, Finn stared at the boundless night sky. The stars twinkled, like countless dreams dotted on the curtain of the night. His long hair bathed in the wind and danced with it, as if resonating with the earth and the ocean. The thoughts surging in his heart were also like waves, quietly stirring at this moment. This quiet night will become a special node in Finn's long journey of practice. He stood on the top, overlooking the four directions, and felt an indescribable tranquility. The starlight reflected on his resolute face, as if telling the story of his long practice. Finn seemed to have already merged with nature, and was quietly enjoying this long-lost relaxation. His eyes were deep and his expression was firm. He was thinking about the road he would take in the future and where to go. Where should the way in his heart go? Freedom, he whispered softly, and a flame of desire for extreme freedom ignited in his heart. He wanted to roam under the vast stars without any constraints. Transcendence. His eyes seemed to be penetrating, as if he wanted to travel through the starry sky and see through the mortal world. He vowed to transcend this mortal world and transform into the extraordinary. Eternal life. He sighed softly. He longed for immortality and witnessed the changes of the world. He wanted to have eternal time without the addition of years. With these whispers, Finn's heart became more determined, his eyes became colder, and his expression became more serious. It seemed that at this moment, he made a great decision. Finn also seemed to forget himself at this moment, with a pair of eyes firmly looking into the distance. This is the state of selflessness brought by enlightenment. At this moment, a terrifying momentum emanated from Finn, full of domineering and determination. However, Finn, who was immersed in nothingness, did not notice it. However, if there were masters present, they would be able to recognize at a glance that this was the unconscious awakening of the domineering color. Yes, Finn's speculation about the domineering color was correct. This is a kind of self-awareness, which firmly implements one's own Tao and beliefs. Just like the Taoists say that the heart of Tao is enlightened, or the Buddhists say that they make great wishes. This is a kind of power generated by spiritual transformation, which is more mysterious than physical strength. So far, there is still no definite interpretation of this power, and there are very few people who use this power correctly, only one in a few 100 million. Well, why am I a little distracted? Finn came back to his senses and said to himself lightly, then shook his head and tried to return to his thoughts just now. Where did you think of just now? Finn looked around again, thought for a while, patted his head and said, yes, where should I go next in my plan? There is nothing good to remember about this island now. Finn said it without blushing. He didn't think about why it was like this. The resources in the misty mountains of this misty island were not over-consumed by him, and almost caused the permanent extinction of species. This is what Finn really saw, how much it costs to maintain the combat power of the admiral level. No wonder the navy that suppresses the entire sea only maintains 3 admirals, barely ensuring the stability of the great waterway and the 4 seas. It is really not affordable. Energy must be conserved. The power required for these moving natural disasters does not appear out of thin air. From Finn's consumption this year, it can be seen how much it costs to maintain the extreme training of the admiral-level combat power. If this is converted into Bailey, it is more than enough for the Navy's military expenditure for a whole year. This year, several tons of 100-year-old medicinal materials were consumed, and thousands of 1,000-year-old and thousands of years were also consumed. The adult beasts on the entire land were hunted and killed. Wealth, law, companions and land, the ancients did not deceive me. Money is really the first element of cultivation. I don't know if this kind of treatment will be available again in the future. Finn said lightly, and couldn't help but miss this precious land. There is no doubt that Finn will know in the future. The unique environment of Yunwu Island and the Grand Line are unique. Otherwise, it would not have become a major exporter of medicinal materials that the world government pays too much attention to. In particular, the climate of clouds and fog all year round is very suitable for the cultivation and growth of medicinal materials. During this year, resources were exhausted, strength was broken through, and Finn gradually understood what metamorphosis is. For him, metamorphosis means that the power becomes stronger and the body gradually adapts to the changes in this process. He no longer clings to the rhetoric in the novels of his previous life, such as refining skin, forging bones, and training organs. Now, he has firmly believed that becoming stronger is metamorphosis, and stronger means greater metamorphosis. Although strength is the external manifestation of strength, it is the measure of the whole body, supported by every cell and every organ. For him, if he only pursues local tempering, it is putting the cart before the horse. He believes that only comprehensive strength is the greatest power. He even had a hunch that the end of this road to becoming stronger must be the extraordinary transformation of the human body. Although he was not sure how far away it was, he could vaguely sense that his body was quietly changing, although it was still very small now. Finn believed that strength was the biggest sign of the difference between mortals and extraordinary people. The process of power transformation is the process of mortals evolving into extraordinary people, and the unattainable power is the essential difference between ordinary people and extraordinary people. Although this is just a guess, it is a road that can be explored without scruples. Finn knew that he needed to constantly surpass and practice to pursue a higher realm. However, the road ahead was no longer visible at this time, and he needed to explore it step by step. Although his power was out of reach in the eyes of ordinary people, in his own opinion, it was far from enough. What he pursued was extraordinary and transcendent, not temporary glory. However, at the current stage, it seemed that the growth of power was becoming slower and slower. The accumulation and strengthening of armed color also seemed to have reached a bottleneck, as if the body had reached its limit. He seemed to understand why some strong men who had already cultivated to a very high level turned to excessive pursuit of actual combat power. Finn now understood that it was the limitation of qualifications, and he had begun to face this problem. The qualifications of those people were not enough to support them to become stronger. It is very difficult to break the limitation of qualifications. Only a few people with great perseverance and determination can comprehend the opportunity of breakthrough on the edge of life and death. Just like the 49th Avenue, the heaven will not cut off the road. Before Finn, the most important thing for him to quickly accumulate combat power was his qualifications that were unrivaled in ancient and modern times. If it takes years of continuous cultivation to make tiny progress, how many people can persist consistently? Finn didn't think he could do it. It is really amazing that Finn was able to achieve such combat power by hard work at a young age. Especially considering that all his cultivation was through his own thinking. In summary, this further proves the terribleness of strong qualifications. The summary of predecessors may help ordinary people avoid detours, but for people with strong qualifications, it is just icing on the cake. Looks like it's time to leave, Finn said to himself. The domineering aura is really exciting. On the vast sea, a lonely figure walked forward alone, and each of his steps crossed a distance of dozens of feet. This was Urent Finn, who embarked on a new journey. At this moment, he was far away from Yunwu Island. Finn knew that he had already reached the bottleneck of his qualifications, and it was no longer feasible to rely on the accumulation of mindless practice to achieve a breakthrough in strength, unless his qualifications could be transformed again. But it was obviously impossible in a short time, because the energy required for transformation was still far away. So in terms of breakthrough in strength, the only thing he could think of was the Conqueror's color. Unless the Conqueror's color could be awakened and the Conqueror's color could be mastered in combat, it would be difficult to truly break through in a short time. As for the master who mastered the Conqueror's color, he thought that the most likely person to provide help and the most likely person to find was Pluto Rayleigh, who was living in retirement in the Sabayati archipelago. Originally, Finn planned to set off directly from Yunwu Island to the Sabayati archipelago to find Rayleigh. He was hoping for the best and tried to find some methods or suggestions to confirm whether he had the Conqueror's Haki or the key factors for awakening the Conqueror's Haki. Although the world generally believes that the Conqueror's Haki is destined and as the chosen one, Finn has always been skeptical about this statement, so he decided to explore it himself. Before setting off, Finn asked Alex about going to the Sabayati archipelago. However, to Finn's surprise, there was no permanent pointer directly to the Sabayati archipelago on the Cloud Island. This is because the Cloud Island has never been involved in direct business in this area. And the Chamber of Commerce in the Cloud Island area only has permanent pointers to the surrounding islands. Finn understood as soon as he heard it. This is the era of great pirates, especially on the Grand Line. Navigation at sea is a high-risk operation, which can be said to be dependent on the weather. In such an environment, Trade is carried out in the surrounding waters and at close range, otherwise it will be difficult for one's life. So their business is also mainly carried out in the waters controlled by the Mad Wolf pirates. However, Alex suggested that Finn go to the Mad Wolf pirates to have a look. Maybe there are permanent pointers to more distant areas. After all, they may be more familiar with maritime intelligence than these chambers of commerce. While returning the drug atlas to Elizabeth, the ship doctor of the Mad Wolf pirates, Finn also asked about going to the Sabayati archipelago and the permanent pointer. However, it is obvious that his expectations were dashed again. The Mad Wolf pirates did not have a permanent pointer to the Sabayati archipelago. Because the distance is too far, the Sabayati archipelago is almost on the other side of the world from the Cloud Island. And for the pirates who want to go to the Sabayati archipelago and the New World, this way of relying on permanent pointers is even more disdainful. They will think that the pirates should go all the way and challenge every island on the route to be a real adventure. Just when Finn was having a headache, Mad Wolf took out a permanent pointer to Alabasta. He told Finn that this was left by the current 7 warlords of the Sea Crocodile when his men recruited him. However, it is obvious that Mad Wolf did not immediately agree to Crocodile's recruitment. Despite this, the permanent pointer was retained. Finn was quite surprised by this, and even a little happy. However, when he heard the name of the current Shichibukai crocodile, he was a little surprised again. It has been a year, has Luffy not yet reached Alabasta? Could it be that the evolution of cause and effect has caused a major change in the timeline? He asked Crazy Wolf about the Straw Hat Pirates. It turned out that Luffy had been away from Drum Island for less than half a year. Because he helped the residents of this country overthrow the tyranny of the former King Wapol, it caused great turmoil worldwide. The debate about the national regime overthrown by pirates, whether the world government should help the former king to restore, was extremely fierce, and the discussion was heated. Drum Island is a member of the world government. The country should have been protected by the navy, but now it has been overthrown by pirates. Although the pirates are helping the people of this country to overthrow the tyranny and let this country regain its life, it is a benevolent act. But the rulers of many countries don't think so. They paid high heavenly gold. Isn't the purpose to avoid the scourge of pirates? Doesn't this make the dictators of those countries feel insecure? Luffy and his crew's behavior also put the navy under tremendous public pressure, and they were considered weak against pirates. The world government had to send a commissioner to conduct an assessment, but they felt the joy of the people of the country after overthrowing the tyranny, especially since the pirates did not rule the country and had already left. Do we really have to welcome the tyrant who is still unknown and has made the country angry and resented by the people? This is not only cruel to the local people, but also makes some people who practice benevolent governance. The country was disappointed with the world government. After weighing the pros and cons, the world government had to accept this fact and gritted its teeth to acknowledge the existence of the newly established Sakura Kingdom. The navy also had to take an attitude. First of all, the overall bounty of the Straw Hat Pirates was raised to a higher level. Luffy's bounty has reached 80 million Baileys, approaching the 7 warlords of the Sea Crocodile. Of course, Crocodile's bounty was before he became a 7 warlords of the sea. Secondly, a large number of major generals and vice admirals from the headquarters were sent to arrest them. Of course, no generals were sent. Isn't that a cannon hitting a mosquito? However, the Straw Hat Pirates are not fuel-saving lamps. They know how much impact their actions will have. After leaving, they disappeared directly, carefully hiding, and waiting for the wind to pass. They know very well that the Grand Line is so big. As long as they don't show up, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack for the Navy to find them. Besides, how could the Navy keep consuming them? These practices are nothing more than the attitudes made to appease other member countries. After the wind passes, they will return to normal. Hearing these things, Finn had lost hope for the plots he had seen in the anime before. The evolution of this real history is so complex and changeable that the results cannot be simply summarized in a few words, let alone explained by a few comics. In addition, sea voyages are not easy, and the map is huge. The Grand Line is half the circumference of the entire planet. It is difficult for ordinary people to imagine such a vast picture. Therefore, sailing from one island to another on the sea is actually crossing the distance of the country, which takes a considerable time, especially for sailing ships that rely on wind power. However, it is not that the technological level of this world is backward, but that the world government has monopolized and restricted technology. Don't forget that this world actually inherited the technology of the moon people who can travel in space. Therefore, the Navy's warships can appear quickly all over the world, which is a military speed, in order to suppress the Four Seas and the Grand Line. Although Finn has lost hope for the plot in his memory, through careful analysis, he is very sure that Luffy's route will definitely pass through Alabasta. In addition to the intersection of the two people's fate, Finn's understanding of Luffy's character also made him believe that Luffy would choose to adventure island by island and would not choose shortcuts. Therefore, Alabasta must be Luffy's next destination. Finn's attitude towards this man with a pure heart is very friendly. Who doesn't like people who can bring smiles and joy? Isn't it a pleasant thing to meet friends? Finn sometimes has to wonder, could it be that the fruit has a special passive ability? Otherwise, why did the boy named Joy who ate this fruit 900 years ago unite many races in the world with laughter as a bond, build a huge kingdom, and let the ancestors of these races put the letter D representing laughter in their surnames? Can the devil fruit really choose its host independently? Does the Nika fruit only choose those who can infect others and convey smiles as hosts? Or is it that the will of the devil fruit itself subtly transforms the user? Finn smiled. It's really magical. It seems that there are many secrets in this world. He then said goodbye to the Mad Wolf group and headed for Alabasta. Lieutenant General Mole, there is a person floating on the sea. He may have encountered a shipwreck. Do we need to take any measures? The soldier on the lookout discovered the situation on the sea and quickly reported the situation to the highest officer on the ship, Lieutenant General Mole. Well, someone is talking. Finn was confused and noticed the voice coming from a distance. It is really hard to say why Finn was lying on the sea. Since leaving Yunwu Island, he has been following the direction indicated by the permanent pointer. He has been walking for more than 10 days, but he has never seen any trace of a ship, let alone land. Finn once thought that the permanent pointer was broken, and conducted several direction experiments on the way. The results showed that the pointer was still swinging normally. At this time, Finn also realized the problem. It was really that this sea was too vast and the distance between the two places was far beyond his expectations. Alone, lightly equipped, walking on the sea, it was okay to be hungry, you can eat some deep-sea sashimi. But for more than 10 days in a row, the physical consumption was too great and very tiring. This is also thanks to the fact that Finn usually maintains the divine martial body Lushan, and the exquisite control of the body has become an instinct. He was able to use the armed color and the aura he exudes to form a slightly larger support point on the sea surface, and was able to float on the sea surface with great difficulty. Just like this, he slept for a while, and this was the first ship he encountered in half a month. Hearing the sound, Finn stood up instantly, looked into the distance, and confirmed that it was a luxury cruise ship. Finn took a step hard, and his figure instantly appeared on the railing of the cruise ship. At this time, Lieutenant General Mole just reacted from the soldier's report, and saw a figure instantly came to the ship from the distant sea, which surprised him very much. He is good at swordsmanship, and physical skills are also strong. He knows how strong physical skills are needed to support this skill, and how much strength is needed to cross such a long distance in an instant. And on the sea, strength is speed, which is a truth that all strong people are well aware of. He immediately judged that the person coming was a super strong person. Vice Admiral Mole stared at the man in front of him nervously, and suddenly, he felt a little familiar. Yes, he recognized who it was at this time. The iconic dark red flame cloud and the face that was very similar to the photo were Finn, who was recently the focus of the Navy's top brass. The Navy would record and pay attention to the strong men on the sea, especially neutral strong men like Finn. The Navy's top brass was also worried that they would accidentally provoke them, so they inexplicably added a powerful enemy. Vice Admiral Mole couldn't help but compare carefully in his mind and found that Finn in front of him was very different. He was a circle stronger than what he saw in the photo, with bulging muscles and a more explosive sense of power. Gerent D. Finn, Vice Admiral Mole spoke first, I wonder why you are here. He couldn't help but become alert to this super strong man who appeared inexplicably. Because at this moment his mission is to protect the safety of the celestial dragons, and there are 2 celestial dragons on the ship. Just now, He was invited to visit several countries on the Grand Route on behalf of the world government, and he was the commander-in-chief of this voyage. It was just a chance encounter. It can only be called fate, Finn said lightly. I was sleeping well and was woken up by you. Oh, I see, then I apologize to you on behalf of our soldiers. The mole breathed a sigh of relief, but continued, but our soldiers also had good intentions and thought they were civilians who encountered shipwrecks. You know, this happens all the time. Ha ha ha, that's really fate. Finn laughed, then looked at the navy on the ship, and continued to smile. Which brother is it? Thank you for your kindness. The mole saw that Finn did not seem to be faking it, and it did not seem like he was deliberately looking for trouble. Besides, the navy had no grudge against him. After thinking about the details a little, he found that it was really as Finn described, so he was relieved. He then smiled and said, "Don't worry, Mr. Finn. Isn't this the duty of our navy?" Then he briefly introduced himself. No wonder Finn felt that the man in front of him was familiar. It turned out to be the Vice Admiral of the Navy who appeared in the comics Mole. Finn took a look and found that he was indeed somewhat similar. Then Finn did not continue to entangle these, but planned to ask Vice Admiral Mole about the problem of maritime positioning. This permanent pointer is completely incomparable with a certain map in the previous life. He was used to luxury and was not used to such primitive things. Vice Admiral Mole, I wonder how far Alabasta is from here? Finn asked. Alabasta. It's not close. Alabasta is in the middle of the Grand Line. Our sea area is still a little far away, Mole said. Suddenly Finn thought of a question. Does the Navy also rely on this unreliable permanent pointer for navigation? Does the ship need to prepare a bunch of permanent pointers to hunt a pirate? It shouldn't be so low. The Navy should have its own positioning system. Finn decided to ask about it. This permanent pointer is too unreliable. It only knows the direction, but has no idea how far it is. It is very unfavorable for his sea voyage. I don't know how your Navy locates at sea. My permanent pointer is a bit unreliable. I have been walking on the sea for half a month, and I am almost exhausted. The key is that I don't know how far I have to go. Finn said speechlessly. He was really exhausted in the past half-month. He walked day and night. Even a donkey has to sleep. He finally thought of a way to sleep. Not long after he slept, he met the Mole Admirals. He was exhausted all the way. The surrounding navy were shocked when they heard it. Many clever ones even imagined their Admiral Aokiji riding a bicycle on the sea. They couldn't help but ask in their hearts, is this the way the boss travels? Relying on walking and waves the whole way. After hearing this, Vice Admiral Mole was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. At his level, he knew what this kind of physical strength represented. He was definitely a super strong man. He gave Finn another point in his assessment of his strength, and the danger level was full of alarm. However, he still pretended to be nonchalant and said, "Of course, our Navy does not use permanent pointers. Your Excellency has used it before, and it is really inconvenient." Then he boasted a little. "We have our own positioning system and a complete sea map. It can locate the current position in real time, and can accurately navigate and evaluate navigation." Well, isn't this the map of someone in the previous life? Oh my God, there is such an advanced system. Pirates are still moving forward in the way of the Middle Ages, and the Navy is already in the modern society. This is really a dimensionality reduction attack. Finn couldn't help but sigh. He really wanted to borrow the Navy's system, but he also knew that it was probably impossible. This was the Navy's military secret and the Navy's biggest advantage over pirates. But he still asked shamelessly. Anyway, he would not lend it to me. Is it so easy to use? Can you give me a terminal? I'm tired of the pointer positioning. Finn asked generously, as if he didn't consider himself an outsider at all. That's not possible. I don't have the authority to send out the positioning den mushi. Sir Finn, please don't make it difficult for me. The mole hurriedly refused. Oh, this thing is called the positioning den mushi. You really have some good stuff. Forget it. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Don't mind. I'm not the kind of person who will force others to do things. Ha ha ha. Finn laughed. By the way, where are you going? Your ship is so luxurious. Which big shot is on board? Can you tell me? Finn continued. Sorry, this is confidential. Sir Finn, please forgive us. We are on a mission. Otherwise, we will send you to the nearest magnetic drum island. We just happened to pass by and it only takes half a day to sail. The mole said very politely. Obviously, he knew the character of the important people on the ship. He didn't want to cause trouble, especially for a strong man like Finn who was out of control. Okay, then, Vice Admiral Mole prepared to take Finn to the Navy's activity area to rest for a while. However, accidents often come so suddenly. Vice Admiral Mole, who is this? Where did he come from? Why did you bring such an unknown person to the ship? Where do you put our safety? A cold female voice came from the second floor. Then I saw that surrounded by a group of guards in black suits, two young people, a man and a woman, appeared in front of the window on the second floor, but they were dressed a little strangely. Finn recognized that such recognizable clothes were undoubtedly celestial dragons. However, he came from modern society and brought a system with him. He naturally had the superiority and pride of a traverser. In addition, he was strong and had no fear of the world government. He would not spoil the celestial dragons. He chose to ignore it directly, looked into the distance, and handed the question to Vice Admiral Mole. The scene seemed a little subtle. Hector Saint, Alia Palace, this is a friend of mine. I apologize for disturbing you too. Vice Admiral Mole apologized hurriedly. Well, such an arrogant person, seeing us, actually didn't kneel. I think he is like those pirates who don't obey the law. Vice Admiral Mole, is he really your friend? Or are you lying to us? Hector Saint said lightly. Seeing Finn ignore the celestial dragons so much, Mole was very embarrassed. But when he thought about who Finn was, he was an admiral who had to be treated as an equal, and the marshal was instructed not to offend him casually. Did he want Finn to kneel to the two of them? Regardless of whether Finn would do it or not, he was sure that as long as he said it, he would definitely face Finn's terrifying combat power. The dignity of the strong is the second life, and it is absolutely not allowed to be insulted. He is very clear about the rules of this sea. Well, such an arrogant man, take him down for me. This kind of strong pirate is exactly the type one like. Just make him my slave. Alia Gong said with a smile, and then said, CP7, why don't you do it? Beat him half to death for me, and then slowly train him. There are still untouchables who dare not kneel to us, let him live a life worse than death. Slave, Finn said expressionlessly. But the temperature around him rose sharply. This was the heat generated by Finn's accelerated heartbeat and rapid blood flow, which was radiating to the surroundings. Finn looked indifferent. What he pursued was transcendence and freedom. Someone actually wanted to enslave him. Obviously, Finn was very angry at this moment. Vice Admiral Mole also felt the weird atmosphere, noticed the changes around Finn, and saw Finn's indifference. Obviously, he already knew that Finn was very angry at this time. He knew very well now that he could not conflict with Finn, because the people on their ship might not be Finn's opponents. If an irreconcilable contradiction really occurred, it was very likely that all the members would be killed. Dying for this meaningless thing is not the result he wants. CP7 stop. The mole shouted hurriedly, and then said to Finn, Sir Finn, I'm sorry, please don't do it, let me handle it. Task. The mole shouted to the leading CP0 member, this is Sir Gerent D. Finn, don't be impulsive. The leading CP0 member Tasker reacted immediately, and at this moment he also recognized Finn, and he obviously knew Finn's strength. The Navy has an intelligence organization, and CP has the same, and it is stronger. They will also pay attention to the new strong men appearing on the sea. However, at this moment, the celestial dragon Alia Palace is obviously impatient. Especially seeing that Vice Admiral Mole dared to disobey her orders, she felt humiliated, and then said to Tasker sternly, what are you still hesitating about? Why don't you take him down for me? Are you going to let me wait here all the time? Seeing the dissatisfaction of his master Alia Palace, Tasker was in a dilemma at this time. Obviously, he also knew that even if he and all the members of CP7 were added, he would not be able to defeat Finn at all, but they were dedicated to serving the Celestial Dragons, equivalent to the Celestial Dragons' private soldiers. If they dared to disobey the orders of their master, the consequences would be more serious than the failure of the mission, and what awaited them would be direct execution. They were taught since childhood to obey the Celestial Dragons, even at the cost of their lives. All on, Tasker hesitated for a moment and then gave an order, and all 10 CP7 members instantly surrounded Finn. They all knew that Finn, as a member of the CP organization, was not only a strong physical warrior but also an intelligence specialist. How could they not know Finn's strength, so they tacitly planned to beat Finn up and maximize our advantages. Obviously, they underestimated Finn's strength. These people were only at the level of rear admirals and vice admirals of the Navy. How could they compete with Finn with just numbers? There was a qualitative gap in combat power, and Finn was obviously angry. Finn didn't know what special devil fruit abilities these people had, so he didn't intend to let them get close. Instant, divine martial body second style gun god. Finger gun. Bang bang bang. Like a machine gun, it was shooting in the air, and the invisible air hit them all like bullets. Except for the leading CP0 Tasker, the other CP7, even though they were masters of physical skills, fell to the ground instantly, with bullet holes on their bodies and blood flowing out without money under such a huge gap in strength, and under Finn's finger gun without mercy. Even Tasker was struggling to support. Although he was not penetrated by the finger gun under the protection of the armed color, he was also in a mess under the impact of the terrifying force. He was also seriously injured, and blood kept flowing out of his mouth. At this moment, they finally realized that Finn's strength was completely beyond their expectations. So vulnerable, but dare to help the tyrant, Finn said indifferently, and at the same time turned his gaze to the celestial dragons. His eyes were full of coldness, as if looking at an ant. At this time, Vice Admiral Mole also reacted. It was too fast. In an instant, all members of CP7 lost their combat capability. CP0 member Tasker, who had the strength of a vice admiral, was also seriously injured. The whole situation developed too rapidly, which made Vice Admiral Mole feel unbelievable. The power displayed by Finn was beyond his imagination. On the one hand, he was glad that he did not act rashly, because he knew that Tasker's strength was not inferior to his. Being able to become the leader of the Celestial Dragon Guards has proved that he is definitely not a weak person. On the other hand, he also felt embarrassed. Faced with such a bad situation, he must stand up and not let the situation continue to deteriorate, otherwise the consequences will be disastrous. He also believed at this moment that Aokiji's report to the headquarters was not exaggerated, and Finn might have the strength of a general. But he still had MMP in his heart. How could he not be shocked that he could easily suppress Tasker, who was comparable to him, with just a few fingers? Mr. Finn, please calm down and don't be impulsive. Vice Admiral Mole smiled at Finn, and then said to the adjutant around him, take Hector Saint and Alia Gong to the room to rest, and take CP7 down for treatment. I will handle the matter. Under the protection of a group of Marines, the two celestial dragons withdrew into the ship. At this time, the two were still in shock and realized that something big might happen this time. Obviously, the dragons were not stupid these 2 days. They were sent out to patrol and represent the face of the world government. They are the elite among the elites. They know that for the real strong, the deterrence of the world government is just a decoration, and their identity as celestial dragons is also worthless. The reason why they were arrogant and aggressive to Finn before was that they were sure that Finn could not have much strength at his age. In addition, Mole knew him and thought he was a rebellious son of a high-ranking naval officer or a noble family. They were so angry that they dared to look down on them, the celestial dragons. Now that they had seen Finn's terrifying combat power, they knew that there might be trouble. The two of them turned pale. The ship was also silent, and everyone was waiting for Vice Admiral Mole to negotiate. Finn did not speak either, and acquiesced to the Mole's way of handling it. He just looked at Vice Admiral Mole quietly, waiting for Vice Admiral Mole to express his opinion. Although he did not want to be an enemy of the world government, when it came to dignity, there must be corresponding respect. This is the rule on the sea. If the dignity of the strong is trampled on at will and remains indifferent, it is equivalent to telling the world that this is not a strong person. Endless trouble will follow. Therefore, the strong often defend their name with their lives. Obviously, the development of this matter was beyond the authority of Vice Admiral Mole. He had never expected that things would develop to this point, and he had never thought that all CP7 members plus CP0 Tasker would be killed instantly by Finn. This was completely beyond his expectations, not only the situation, but also Finn's strength. Moreover, this time the celestial dragons were going for Finn's life. This was no longer a trivial matter. If it was not handled properly, everyone might lose their lives. Vice Admiral Mole knew that the first thing to do was to appease Finn, ease the situation, and prevent the situation from further deteriorating. Sir Finn, I'm very sorry. I didn't expect such an unpleasant thing to happen, Mole said with an awkward smile. Hector Saint and Alia Gong are elite members of the Celestial Dragons. They are usually a little arrogant, but the incident has already happened. We might as well make a big deal out of it. Otherwise, even if you kill us here, what good will it do you? Lieutenant General Mole intends to continue to appeal to Finn's emotions and reason, and then explain the interests involved to let the matter pass smoothly. However, he did not intend to speak empty-handed, because this would be a great disrespect to Finn, and might even further expand the misunderstanding. Mole continued, Mr. Finn, since you are going to travel the Grand Line, why don't we give you a Den Den Mushi positioning system from our Navy so that you can locate yourself in real time and avoid getting lost at sea? This is our apology. What do you think? Finn looked at Vice Admiral Mole and seemed a little surprised. He didn't expect him to be so generous and actually give him such a weapon. It was indeed something he urgently needed at the moment. Finn felt his sincerity and thought about whether to just take advantage of the situation. Then he nodded lightly and said, to indicate his agreement. Finn analyzed it carefully and found that it was indeed as Vice Admiral Mole said. At this stage, there was no benefit in going against the world government. There was no need for him to set up such a big enemy for himself. Although he was not afraid, it would bring a lot of trouble. After all, he was not a person who pursued a momentary impulse. What he pursued was immortality and transcendence. There was no need to quarrel with the world government because of this little thing, disrupting his plan and letting things develop out of control. Moreover, Admiral Mole also expressed his willingness to give him a set of the Navy's maritime positioning system, which was very sincere. Besides, a real man should be able to bend and stretch, judge the situation and act according to the situation, which is what a wise man does. Besides, the result also satisfied Finn. To put it another way, Admiral Mole had given him enough face since he got on board, and he couldn't keep pretending. As the saying goes, you should be lenient whether you are right or wrong, and you should forgive others when you can. If you do things to the extreme, you will end up destroying your own way. This world is not all about fighting and killing, but also about human relationships. Sir Finn, please take a rest. I will notify the headquarters immediately and have someone send a system over, said Mole after seeing Finn agree, and asked the officer next to him to take Finn to the VIP lounge to rest for a while. Finn nodded in agreement. He knew that the matter of Den Den Mushi needed the consent of the Navy headquarters, and that if such a thing happened, Vice Admiral Mole must also report it. This was not something that he, a Vice Admiral, could decide alone. He also did not think that the Navy would mobilize a large number of troops to deal with him because of such a small matter. After all, it was not a smart move for the Navy to create a powerful enemy for such a small matter. He believed that the wise General Sengoku would be able to make a wise and reasonable judgment. At the same time, this was also because Finn was quite confident in his own strength, and he was not afraid of the threats of the three admirals. Even if they sent the three admirals to deal with him together, Finn had full confidence in escaping. There was sea everywhere, and he had a complete advantage. Could it be that Aokiji could freeze the entire sea? Vice Admiral Mole quickly reported all the details of the conflict to the Navy headquarters, and in order to ensure that the headquarters could make a correct judgment, he described in detail Finn's battle and his personal experience at the scene. He especially emphasized Finn's strong combat effectiveness. This was not a sign of weakness, but an objective recognition of strength. Vice Admiral Mole hopes that by reporting truthfully, the headquarters can make rational and wise decisions to avoid unnecessary disputes caused by impulse. Because he really doesn't want to be an enemy of Finn for no reason, because the first one to suffer is himself, and he is not his opponent at all. When Zongguo received the call from Vice Admiral Mole, he suddenly felt tired. These celestial dragons always seem to be making trouble, and he always has to clean up their mess. He kept saying MMP in his heart, but this time he was very relieved that Vice Admiral Mole handled it properly, successfully resolved the conflict, and avoided escalation of the situation. Zongguo did not have too many opinions on the proposal of the Den Den Mushi positioning system's concern. He agreed to the Mole's suggestion and said that he would send someone to deliver the system. In his opinion, this was just a small matter. In Sengoku's opinion, it was just a small concession. Besides, the other party was not a pirate, and it was not considered an aid to the enemy. Besides, the Den Den Mushi positioning system had been sent out for a long time. All major chambers of commerce and organizations had it. It was not a rare thing. Moreover, the use of this thing was completely controlled by the Navy and could be interrupted at any time. Afterwards, the three admirals gathered in Sengoku's office. Sengoku briefly introduced what happened, and then said lightly, "Tell me, how to deal with this matter, do you have anything to say? If not, Borsellino will do it." The three people looked at each other and fell silent for a while. They all realized that the Navy was not right, and Finn had accepted the mole's proposal. If extreme methods are adopted, it may be okay if it succeeds, but if it fails, the cost may be too huge. From the description of the mole, Finn's strength is obviously not to be underestimated, and none of the three people are sure to defeat him. Zhang understood the concerns of the three people and did not intend to make things difficult for them. He directly sent someone to send the Den Den Mushi positioning system. This system is actually a Den Den Mushi. It reports the current location by making a phone call, and then the headquarters transmits the detailed map of the current sea area and parameters such as location and distance through the Den Den Mushi. It is actually a smart map with a phone function. Borsellino, please make a trip. Only you are the most suitable. At your full speed, you should be able to arrive in half a day. Remember to protect the safety of the celestial dragons. If you can try to find out the strength of Julant D. Finn as much as possible. Zhang Guo said lightly. Kizaru obviously knew that he could not escape. It was indeed only he who was most suitable for this task. Without saying much nonsense, he picked up the positioning system on the table, and a flash of light disappeared in the Navy headquarters. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.